Can you hear me?
Yeah, Billy's gonna jump online.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Great.
Yes, I can hear you, Cynthia.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. We are just waiting for Billy to join.
I'm here. My invitation said 7:15. I don't know why.
Oh, you had a special invitation, I guess.
Well, maybe I moved it or something, but yeah, it definitely says 7:15.
Okay, well, we can get going. Vice Chair Mole, if you're ready to go, and Miranda, if you're ready to go.
Yep, we're ready to go.
All right, since everybody's ready, I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting is called to order on May 18th, 2022 at 7:08 p.m. And roll call, Vice Chair Mole,
Here.
Member Davenport, okay, I didn't hear that. Member Giblin,
Here.
alternate member Cornell. No, you're there, I heard you. Okay. And Trustee Taylor.
Here.
Great, I did hear that.
We are having a really tough time hearing people in the room,
Okay,
at least.
Cynthia, are you?
I'm hearing some people.
So just a reminder to make sure all of your mics are on.
Yeah, I heard Roger speak. I heard Trustee Taylor. I did not hear Debbie.
Her microphone is off. Where did
Really,
you?
but he's coming in online, so.
It's faint, so I'm just worried about the recording too.
Thanks for that.
It was just the last meeting. It did feedback and yes.
So put that one in front of you.
Okay. In the interim, please note for the record that Chair Mark Stringfellow is absent. So
That's it for roll call?
that is it for roll call. We can go on to approval of minutes if everyone is ready.
Approval of the minutes from January 13th, 2022. Anyone have issue with these minutes? I was pointed out to me that on page 2 of the minutes, I was reappointed as the chair instead of co-chair. So I guess that's incorrect.
Okay.
Could be vice chair.
That's what I meant, is vice chair, yeah.
Yes, so that'll need to be amended. Any other changes that needed to occur with those minutes?
I looked at it, it was just the election of the officers, and then we had some reports and had some news, so I would make, and I was there, so I make a motion to approve the PZA draft minutes for January 13th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, Debbie, great. And then
I'm sorry, with the changes of the vice chair.
amended, yes. Okay, then we will go down the list here. Vice Chair Mole,
Yes.
Member Davenport,
Yes.
Member Giblin,
Yes. Yes.
okay. It looks like Roger, you're abstaining because you weren't in attendance, is that correct?
No, I think I was here.
You were in attendance?
I believe I was, yes.
The minutes note that no one was absent.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Got you. And Trustee Taylor?
I abstain. I wasn't here.
I gotcha. Okay.
So Miranda, was I here or not? Yeah, I was. So I vote yes.
Okay.
Minutes, the minutes indicate Roger was there.
Okay.
Sorry, Cynthia, what I was saying, I was here, so therefore I should make the motion. If I had been in attendance.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, I got it. So the minutes will be passed as amended.
Okay. Public comment on non-agenda items. Now I have to read this, right? What, okay.
You're just asking for public comment on items that are not on the agenda.
Are there any-
If anyone has one.
Are there any non-agenda items? Anyone have something to bring up? Looks like we're ready to go into action items.
Yep.
So we have 3 variances, and I'm going to read this first. This is, it's 2 pages. Board of Zoning Adjustment script for quasi judicial hearing. Here this evening for a public hearing on a variance of the town zoning code pursuant to Article 9 of Chapter 16 of the Netherlands Municipal Code. Before we begin with the public hearing, I would like to provide an outline of the process for this public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. 5 items. First, the hearing will start off with staff presenting the report on this variance. The board will have an opportunity to ask clarifying questions of staff after the presentation. That'll be you or?
Cynthia is going to
Cynthia.
present these tonight.
Okay. The applicant will then present on the application, and the board will be able to ask the applicant clarifying questions. We will then allow for public comment. The applicant may be permitted to respond to the public comment, and then the board will then discuss and deliberate the application. The public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering, okay, so now we're going into number 1 here, is that right?
Well, yeah, and so Mark, the next bullet points just kind of guide you through it. So you'll want to, we're going into the public hearing. You'll indicate what the hearing is, this first one, and then turn it over to Cynthia for her staff report.
Okay,
You don't have to read all these bullet points right now. This just
Right.
helps to go through the flow.
okay.
Point of order. This being a quasi-judicial hearing, can a trustee be present? Can the mayor be present?
Yes, so the
Because it won't
BZ,
be before the BOT?
correct, this will not go before the
Very
BZ,
fine.
the BOT. The BZA is the final decision maker
Just
here,
wanted to verify.
which is why the board members can be here. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, first item is consideration. Let me see here. The public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the variance application related to the lot width by Jeffrey Archambault at 980 North Peak to Peak Highway, legal description tract 2117A, AKA parcel B, Carline Tract Minor Subdivision 1 acre more or less. Will Cynthia please present the report?
Sure. Thank you, Vice Chair. So the property owner is present tonight, Jeffrey Archambault. He goes by Jeff. He owns and desires to sell the southern parcel that's addressed as 980 North Peak to Peak Highway. The parcel is addressed 980 Peak to Peak Highway. It has the same address as the parcel to the north. So if it were to be developed, it would need to be readdressed in conjunction with any future development. Properties in the Mountain Residential District with 1 acre lot size and 150 foot width requirements that are set forth in section 16-33, the yard and bulk requirements. Mr. Archambault's lot is plus or minus 45,734 square feet, so it is above an acre. However, the lot varies from 97.3 feet on the northerly end to 101.45 feet on the southerly end. The mountain residential setbacks require 30 feet from the front, 40 feet from the rear, and 20 feet from the sides. According to the minor subdivision plat, the Carline Tract minor subdivision replat was approved by the town on June 18th, 1984, and it was recorded on June 27th, 1985. With further review by the town attorney, it was determined that in 1981, the lot width requirement for the Mountain Residential Zoning District was 150 feet. So it was the same as it was then as it is now, and thus the minimum lot width hasn't changed. It's unknown why the subdivision was approved at that time in 1984 when it didn't meet the minimum lot width requirement. And based on what we understand, it's possible that the town created the hardship in this situation with approval to the subdivision of the Carline minor subdivision replat. So the applicant will argue tonight that it's conceivable for a house to be designed to front the highway which would allow side setbacks to be accommodated, whereas there are houses on either side of Archambault's lot that front to the west with driveways coming in from the highway. Pertinent to this request, however, Mr. Archambault is just asking for a variance for the lot width. He is not asking for a variance to the setbacks. All the noticing requirements were met for this application. There were no staff comments pertaining to the request. However, as you may have noted in the packet, there were comments that were submitted in opposition by the neighbors to the south at 968 Highway 72 by Michael Gonsor and Jamie Roberts. In summary of their submitted letter, they object to, due to aesthetic reasons, the potential impact to neighboring systems with an addition of a well and or a septic system, the potential for offsite drainage and erosion that would impact their lot to the south, and also the alteration of the observed migration patterns across the lot that has been vacant for some time. So that is a summary of the request before you. Do you have any questions for me or other town staff?
Does staff have a recommendation?
I'm sorry?
So, it's green. Oh.
Cynthia, Debbie was asking if you have a recommendation as staff.
As staff, I think that it is conceivable that the lot could be developed if it was in keeping with the setbacks, if the design reflected the length of the lot. So it used that with the frontage facing the highway and using the length of the lot to its advantage, given the long setbacks in that district. It's conceivable that could be done. They would have to use temporary erosion control measures during construction and ensure that there would be any permanent erosion control aspects to the south to ensure that they would limit any erosion and drainage to their neighbor to the south. There were no submitted staff comments, so there was no one on staff who had objected to what the request was.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, applicant have a presentation?
The applicant is joining us virtually.
I believe that Jimmy Keith is present tonight in the hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So Jimmy will, I think, will be presenting our request primarily. I just wanted to introduce myself. My wife and I had lived at 968 peak to peak for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. We loved the place. Loved living in Nederland. I'd come up there through my adult life and finally got the chance to live up there. When I retired, it just was part of our plans that we ended up moving to the West Coast, and miss it greatly, but still own the lot and have come to the conclusion that there's really no reason for us to hang on to it. Our taxes on the property through Boulder County have gone up enormously over that period. Our first year there in 2019 paying taxes, we paid about $2,800 in taxes. Next year they jumped to $4,100, a 48% increase. I believe the previous owners, who were the previous residents in our house, had a homesteading exemption or some sort of discount because they had been there for so long. So it jumped up for us, stayed the same in 21. And then this first year after we've moved out, the taxes have now jumped up to $6,400 a year, another 52% increase in taxes. So it's just not feasible to keep up with that. I believe this latest year's taxes are because we don't own an adjacent lot, but it also suggests that as a standalone, there is an assumption by the county that that's a lot to be developed. So any rate, we've paid a little over around 17,600 in taxes since the time we've been there. And we can't keep up with that. So I'll let Jimmy then speak for us. He's representing us and speak to the board.
Thank you for all attending. I'm Jimmy Keith, and I'm not a resident at this moment. Although 50 years ago this year, I did bring the railroad cars up here, so I've been around a while. What is interesting is the taxes on this lot, just to stay on that topic for a minute, the town and the county's collected almost $30,000 in property taxes on this vacant lot since it was created. That's quite a sum. Also of interest, this was replatted and reapproved as a Robin's Nest subdivision, and a little about the third page in your packet. Several years later, in 1992, so it was approved twice by the town as a lot. So it's just by error. It was overlooked or plain overlooked, I suspect. I do realize the neighbors on the side would like to have not built because it's their green belt. How convenient. However, there's a sign on it that says for sale. They're welcome to purchase it and keep it green belt, of course. We did go to great lengths to prepare the map. That's the last page in your packet showing the house, the well, the septic. Fit very well on the lot with no problems with setbacks. It is convenient. I can pass a large map around. It is convenient that the other homes around it are both built by now. So of course we could see where their well and septics are. But we had no problem putting it together. The second page of the little package shows the shared driveway with 980 peak to peak, which is the house to the north. So the driveway is already in place legally and physically for this building lot. The power is also in place on this lot. So it is quite easily built. It's fairly level going down. The grade isn't steep. I see no reason for concern of erosion. Migration is just plain forest, no different than the lot north or south in terms of migration. So I would hope that the commissioners could see that, or the staff could see that it's merely an oversight by the town. A lot of taxes have been collected. It's just plain a building lot in Nederland. If you have questions, I've got all the paperwork on the easements, on the creation of the lot, the town approvals through the Carline subdivision. And it was easy to find all the documents and all the approvals. And no one ever objected to it until now on sale. It came up and Cynthia discovered it and let us know. If you'd like me to pass around the large map, or if you want to see it on the wall, I know it's hard to see on the package, but the house well septic fit very comfortably.
Yeah, and any BZA members are welcome if you wanted to stand up and go.
Can you flip that around?
Well, it's still pretty light. What do I?
Yeah, you may not be able to see it very well. You can walk that around. Watch out for the cords.
Oh, okay. So it's basically just like this right here. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like what I have right here in front of me.
It's just a little larger document. See, it all fit. Might have been planning went into this. It was not a difficult engineering feat by any fashion to put the house.
So now you all can't hear Jimmy. Jimmy's just showing the large scale map to the board members who are in the room.
Thank you.
Work on all creations of the lots, anything staff would like to see, or commission, board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Don't think it actually makes, well, maybe we should just continue. I just want to make a comment about the survey later on or whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, so Mark, you're gonna, I don't know, you're at the point in your script of just seeing if the Board of Zoning Adjustment has questions for the applicant. And then you'll move to public comment.
Okay. Any questions from the Board of Zoning Adjustment for the applicant?
A couple of questions, comments. So by coincidence, my signature's on this document. So I just want to clarify, there's actually two actions here. Maybe you need to know this too, Jimmy. The Robin's Nest and why it became this whole big subdivision, it doesn't matter. But are abstract in the two properties, the two non-conforming properties, which are the Carline properties to the north, were actually done whatever, said 1984. And this, I don't know if there's data on this thing, several years later, probably 10 years later, Robin, who owned the house down in Stinky Gulch, has to subdivide, the house lot 1, which basically at the time, that's what I thought was Robin Nest, but I stand corrected because here it's showing it with our signature on it. But there's basically, just for historical, it doesn't make any difference in the action we're taking tonight. There definitely was the initial 2 parcels, and then it would have been lot 2 of Robin's Nest. And lot 1 then was subdivided, which would be Archambault's, where the house was built. And a fellow named, Tom Carline, divided it up. So there's definitely 2 separate subdivisions, and maybe it all became part of one quote unquote subdivision. And then how they did it as a survey, I don't know, but there it is. I guess I have questions of staff. I don't know, somewhere here in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and I can't quite recall exactly how it was, but either as a planning commission informally, some people actually took action on, asked questions about another property that Tom Carline subdivided. Jimmy Keith probably knows Tom Carline very well, as I certainly do too. And Glenna, I've actually bought, she was my realtor, Glenna Carline was my realtor when we bought our lot. He subdivided a parcel over on, which would be Jackie Jones' property, the large 38 parcel to the south. And at that time, actually didn't even come to the board. So we're talking about how did these things happen? He went down to the county and was able to just take a plat and created a plat. And there's 5 acres to the extreme northeast corner of our town, but there's a 5-acre plat that then had to later go on, and we had to work to put it on our zoning map. So that's just some background. So what has happened, I was called and tried to ask, these people were trying to buy that property and they were told that they could not put a well in. And
So Board Member Cornell, I just want to make sure that this is tied specifically to this application.
Here's where my question is. The question is then, at that time, we were told that the state is no longer providing well permits to subdivisions. And so I only want to question, and I would think that I would ask town and or the applicants that as we we're not creating this lot, but as we verify the legality of this lot, that the applicants and the town and all people involved ought to actually research to make sure that the utilities can be provided. So that's, I'm sorry, a long way around.
You took us on a journey there.
But it definitely, there has been people that have tried to go to the state. And if there's actually an existing subdivision, they're saying, no, it's a subdivision, it should be hooked up to town utilities, is what the state is telling people.
Right, so obviously if then my understanding, the desire is to sell this parcel. So if this parcel is sold and then the person comes to develop it, they're gonna need to evaluate utilities with town staff. I'm not sure we would do that as a part of this discussion tonight, but that is something that of course needs to, would happen with the sale and development of any parcel, is to assess the utility connection.
All right, and I just.
Are you making the point, alternate member Cornell, that the lot couldn't be developed because, and I remember that scenario where the 5-acre parcel, that Jackie Jones, she owns that. She also owns the 30-acre parcel, the larger parcel, that's adjacent to it. But the 5-acre parcel, they had come to us. It is farther than 200 feet, so they couldn't tap in. And we said, yeah, go ahead and go for a well, but there was a question of the legal subdivision. And so I think what Roger is asking is, was this a legal subdivision so that whatever is created out of this variance, they're not going to have an issue where they're going to be turned down for a well? Is that correct, Roger?
That is absolutely correct. And so maybe my long roundabout way was wrong, but it refreshed your memory so you can understand it. So I know it's not anything part of a motion we do tonight, but all parties involved, I'd actually think about if we actually go forward, give a variance, that becomes a legal lot, and utilities would become a very important part of that issue. And it's actually not a very easy, if they actually had to connect to town utilities. The lot 1 of the Robin's Nest actually was required when they built, put in a cistern for fire suppression. So that was another requirement for when we put that in. So maybe I know too much, maybe there's too much history. I just want to make sure it's all on the table.
Sure.
May I ask a question of Cynthia? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so back when, gosh, this must have been about 8 or 10 years ago, when Alicia was town administrator, you guys looked at a number of lots in the town and noted that there were quite a few that were non-conforming just because of acreage, width of lot, just there were all kinds of size and, non-conforming lots. And I just wanted to, could you refresh my memory about what the action item was that resulted from that research? Because I remember when you were also reviewing that there were non-conforming situations where buildings had been built outside of the setback. And and the code up to that point had been that if you were over the setback, you couldn't enlarge your structure. But then the code was changed so that as long as you weren't going to be violating the setbacks, you could add onto your building. And then as part of that, there was a 2-part research that you and Alicia had done. And I was just wondering, what was the result of your looking at the non-conforming lots in town?
Okay. I don't know that I did the research on non-conforming, but I do know what you're saying, that there are a lot of lots, and prior to the code being changed, there were a lot of variance requests that were coming before this board because they were very limited in what residents were limited in what they could do. And the variance change allowed them to, if they were not going to exacerbate setbacks, so if they were not going to make a nonconformity worse, that they would be able to, for example, put an addition on the side of their house that didn't encroach on the setbacks. But I don't think that I was working for the town when the research was done, because that ordinance to change the considerations for the variance, that was just before the time I started working for the town. So I think I don't think that I was part of that research, but I do know that there are lots all over the town in every district that are undersized. As to whether or not that was done legally, I think it's the question that often arises is what Roger was mentioning before about something, you know, going to Boulder County and something being platted. Those kind of things happened up in Big Springs where lots were not legally subdivided, but they were created. Smaller lots were created. So I think the question is the Carline lot subdivided? It looks like the town approved this minor subdivision and approved it being either oblivious to the required lot width or doing it anyway. I'm not sure what the stance was about that, or if, you know, if that was part of their consideration. But it seems feasible that this lot could be developed with a house. It is larger than the lot to the north that does have a house to it on it already. It is wider than that lot as well. So it would seem that it could contain a lot if it made use, if the design made use of the lot in some way. And the question of whether or not utilities could be served is a good question. And I think that, as Miranda had noted, it may not be germane to this request. I think it's important to understand if a variance is approved, that the next step you know, that a property owner would think would come would be going to building and construction. So the question of whether or not the lot could be developed is a good question because it is outside of the utility service of the town.
Chairman, yeah, okay. We don't really need to discuss really a whole lot, but go ahead, please.
Yes, this was our first discussion when we discovered the lot, and we are eligible for a residential well permit and eligible for a septic.
Okay.
There was no discussion, we were not.
I think Deb, I just wanted to respond to Deb's question. I think the one that we had worked on there actually was the difference. It was actually a garage and some buildings, so it was a non-conforming building. Now, what to do to add on to those buildings compared to this being a non-conforming lot, where we're in there, other than to make a variance for it. And coincidentally, 184C on the next page of our code, actually 16184C, excuse me, says that in mountain residential, lots with 1/2 of an acre would be okay. And I think possibly when this code came out way back in 1982, that people took that 184C and said, oh, we can have a non-conforming lot. And that's how some of them got built in Big Springs. So I just more history, but that's possibly, but we're definitely concerned with 16184B today, but there's actually A, B, and C there. And between the three of them, you actually, I read them 3 times today to try to make sure which one we were really on today. So you really have to do that. But I think, Debbie, it was non-conforming buildings. And then what trying to add on to them, which is a totally different thing from trying to, as 16184 says is, you know, if we just grant a variance, then it's a legal lot of record, is what we're here for tonight.
So Miranda, really all we're being asked as this board is, this lot is a narrow lot, and it's technically, because it's so narrow, to build on it, they need a variance of the width of the lot. And all those other questions about utilities and drainage and stuff, that's not really what we're supposed to answer.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that, like, that would be handled then afterwards. That is not
Right.
the task
That,
of
that's,
this board.
that's, along the lines of a building permit,
Mhm.
which is not our expertise.
Right, we would take it from there.
Unless Stringfellow was here, but he's not.
Right.
I have to put that in on the record.
Yeah. I only have one other comment, then I'm done, because our abstract says that it might be a very, very narrow house, but really, if it's 100 feet wide, 20 feet on each side, I mean, it would still be a 60-foot wide house, which is not a small house. So
Yeah.
I think
You're
they're.
you're talking about this proposed house
Well,
location?
Proposed house, whatever it is, no, I just say what it would be, it's the setbacks on either side are 20 feet. So that's 100 foot, it still leaves you 60 feet to build a house, which is a very huge width of a house. So, the abstract kind of said it was questionable whether it's buildable or it would be a very narrow house. And I don't think that, I just wanted the board to understand that that's not necessarily a very narrow house. And
Narrow maybe compared to the neighbor to the south, which is a much larger home. But it would like those homes, the houses that flank it, you come in off a driveway, off the highway, and the houses are facing the west. So in this case, the house would have to make use of the frontage facing the highway, using the narrowness of the lot for its side setbacks and the length of the lot for its rear, and I think that can be done.
Okay. Any more questions for the applicant? Or are we ready for public comment? Board members? Any public comment? I do know, I would like to note that in our packets, there was one letter of opposition.
I am starting pulling. Yes, there was. And do you want to break it up, Vice Chair Mull, to do public comments in favor and then public comments in opposition? So you have them split?
No, just
Okay.
anything.
Okay. Yes, you did have one letter of opposition in the packet.
So any questions about that letter from the board members? Since that's technically a public comment.
Although I wouldn't say Cynthia or I would be able to speak on their behalf if there were questions. And I don't believe that they are on.
Any response from the applicant?
I don't have any comment. Thank you for the discussion.
Any discussion among the board members?
Do you want to close the public comment?
Oh, yeah. No more public comment? Let's close public comment.
Okay.
Any discussion from the board?
I have too much history. I just wanted to say that 10 years ago or so, I was working at town hall, just about the time Cynthia started, and where her office is, with the huge filing cabinet and records, and I kind of went through them, tried to organize them and sort them out for town hall. And I actually saw the minutes of the planning commission meeting where the planning commission and the board of trustees at that time in 1984 actually took Tom Carline's thing and actually made this. So I actually saw the minutes. There actually was a meeting where they definitely approved this and went through the whole process, which I think is what the.
Will you pull that mic closer to your
Yeah,
mouth? They're having a hard time
absolutely.
hearing you.
So I just want to say, it's just not hearsay or someone pulled up the plat. I actually, I'm actually surprised it's not in the property file, but I actually saw the minutes from, it was either the planning commission or the board of trustees approving Tom Carline's request for, dividing that property in half. And it's a big question of why they ever did it, but they did it. So therefore, it's definitely a legal lot.
Vice Chairman, I just want to offer a clarification on the process. If there's no additional questions for the applicant, you should close the public hearing.
Okay. Public hearing, I thought I just did that.
You close public
Just did
comment,
that.
don't close
Oh.
the public hearing.
Okay.
It's like halfway down on page 2 there. The scripts are the best.
All right. So,
So you'll close that public hearing.
Right.
It's halfway down and then enter into
does
deliberation.
anyone want to add anything to staff report? All right, we're going to close the public comment. We're going to close the public hearing. Right. So all that's left is a vote.
And any further deliberation, if there's a desire of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Or you could, so we actually won't approve this resolution tonight because we need to bring back to you that fact of finding, at which point in time you would then approve the resolution. The resolution tonight is just to show you what it would be. But you won't want to vote on that because you do need to come back and approve fact of finding.
Okay, so what's this fact of finding again?
Cynthia, do you want to go over that? Your alternates here in the packet?
Oh, are you talking about the resolution?
No, so we wouldn't vote on the resolution tonight because you need to bring back that fact of finding,
Oh, yeah.
in which case the resolution would be premature.
Okay.
Finding of fact, thank you.
Finding of fact, yes, thanks. So what the finding of fact is at the next meeting that the board would meet, so we would set a special meeting to meet, and we would approve the minutes for the meeting and the findings of fact. And the findings of fact are going over the variance request, the proposal, and noting any specific aspects of the request. So relating the variance request to the 5 criteria that the board has to review this application. And as the board is aware, that criteria is there's something about the lot, whether it's narrowness, size, some aspect of the lot has created a hardship. That hardship that was created makes it hard to develop the lot in a normal fashion. The applicant cannot create the hardship. The proposal cannot alter the neighborhood, the general character of the neighborhood. And the last condition is whatever variance is granted is the minimum that will be granted. So whatever variant, whatever modification can be granted, it will be the least amount of modification.
Okay, so we're,
So, and I'm sorry, I misspoke. So if you look at your aim, you've got these alternatives. Gee,
Right.
having a rough go. Where you can approve the request for variance based on certain findings of fact and direct these findings to be drafted for approval, or you could deny on those the same thing. And you can go ahead and approve the resolution tonight, but we will still need to come back together to review it. Oh, go ahead,
No.
Mattson.
They don't have to come back. So you can do it one of two ways. You can approve it tonight if you want, or if you would prefer, you can talk about each of the criteria that Cynthia mentioned. My recommendation would be to go one step at a time. So talk about each criteria and whether you believe it's been met. And then if you feel like, based on the facts that have been provided on the record, that each of the criteria has been met, you could either approve it tonight or we could bring it back. You don't need to bring back specific findings of fact. later on.
So
Or-
Attorney Mattson, you'd look for then Vice Chair Mull to read through the 5 criteria here?
But basically, whether or not the code requirement, excuse me, the code requirements related to the request of the variance 16-232, whether it meets those criterias, A through E.
Right.
Right, so I think Attorney Mattson is recommending you talk about A
Yeah,
through
I got
E
it.
individually.
So where is it? And then there's can be some that actually, because of the question at hand, that, you know, it may not even apply.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about them.
Do you want me to read them? Would you like to?
I think I got them here, that there are unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or size of the lot, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the affected property. Any discussion, board members? The second one, that because of physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot be reasonably be developed in conformity with the provisions of this chapter. Discussion? The next one, that unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant. Discussion?
No.
That the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of the property. Okay. Well, it says property. Oh, okay. And then finally, that the variance, if granted, is the minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible for this chapter's provision, which are in question. Any questions? So it looks like, am I right, Miranda, that it's on page 34, this resolution?
Yep.
And I should read the resolution?
You don't need to read the resolution. If the Board of Zoning Adjustment is ready, someone can make a motion
Well,
to approve.
Can I stop? So there haven't been any discussion on whether those criteria have been met by the applicant.
We all nodded our heads.
I asked
Oh.
for discussion.
Well, we can't hear that. We can't
Oh,
hear
okay.
nodding of heads.
All right, let me just say that on any of these, what are they called?
Criteria?
Criteria are, board members, any discussion? And everybody talking to your mic.
No discussion. No discussion. It seems all 5 criteria.
Well, I mean, maybe, I guess what Jennifer's trying to say, that we actually ought to, you know, at least say what it is. So, you know, let me try to weigh in. You know, A, big narrowness, shallowness. So, yes, it's an exceptional lot that was actually legally created. So as far as number A goes, I would argue that, you know, it was a lot that went through the process and they created a non-conforming lot. Is that kind of what Jennifer wants us to put forward?
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Roger. Those are findings of fact, what you're saying.
And because of our code, 16-184, the circumstances or the conditions, the property cannot be reasonably developed in conformity with the provisions of the chapter. And then our chapter further gives us a way to make the variance so that it becomes a legal lot. So B, by giving it the legal variance, we are covering B. C, the hardship definitely was not created by the applicant. It was created many, many years ago by, you know, a developer. D, you're adding one house, one property that, you're adding one property that possibly could be developed to an area that's basically low density residential. So I think D qualifies. E,
Mountain residential.
mountain residential. Sorry, yeah, thank you. That E, that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will be afforded relief. Well, it's the property line that's already was established 30 years ago, so I think E certainly qualifies also. And 1 and 2. Okay, those don't apply because that's
Yeah.
the variances. So I mean, clearly, unless anybody, so any further discussion, I have certainly gone over A through E, and I think that, you know, in my mind, that it has fulfilled, whatever it is, 16-232, which meets the requirements for a variance.
And
Right.
that's the assessment that's been going through my mind as well. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And and we're just, this is just a variance for the lot. Remains to be seen if anyone wants to build a house, how that's gonna go.
Correct. You're only doing the
Yeah.
lot.
And it remains to be seen if they want to do a house and it fits the variances, whether they can get a building permit based on other stuff like drainage or even utilities. So, but that's not us. That's not.
We already went through that.
So at this point, I'd like to, if any board members want to make a motion to, on page 34 and 35, there is a resolution whether we should vote to approve or disapprove that.
All right, for the record, I'll make the motion.
Any seconds?
So have him make the full
Let me
motion.
read it.
Okay.
I make a motion that the BZA approves the zoning variance application for the lot width by Jeffrey John
Archambault.
at the 980 North Peak to Peak Highway, which needs to be changed to the legal description track 2117A, parcel B, car lane track, minor subdivision, acre more or less, 1 acre more or less. I make the motion to approve the request for a variance.
I second.
Because it meets the criteria of 16-232.
I second.
Did you hear that?
Yes, we can hear it, but the you guys should approve the BZA resolution 2022-01.
Okay, yeah, this, go ahead.
That's the motion. So maybe somebody can ask for an amendment of that motion to approve the resolution.
Or Attorney Maxon can, board member Cornell, just make it again.
So I meant
Yes. He can restate it.
to the BZA resolution 2022-01. Man, too complicated for me.
You still second it?
Just giving it the proper title.
Board member Cornell, will you read the title of this resolution for clarification? Just the title in bold.
A resolution of the Board of Zoning Adjustment of the Town of Nederland approving a variance for 980 North Peak to Peak Highway. BZA resolution, that was 2022-01.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
I'll second.
Okay, you want to get us a vote?
Cynthia will call for the vote.
Cynthia?
Sure. Vice Chair Mole,
Yes, or approve.
Member Davenport,
Yes.
Member Giblin,
Yes.
Alternate Member Cornell,
Yes,
and Trustee Liaison Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes, variance passes. Jennifer, do you want to direct next steps?
Direct what?
Next-
Next steps would just be to sign the resolution and then we can get it recorded.
Okay. Great.
So Vice Chair Moll, that will require you to come to the office at some point so we can have them printed out and have you sign them.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good thing I have a right hand.
Right? Agreed.
Right. Sorry.
So, moving right along to the second variance request. I'm going to read that the Board of Zoning Adjustment will, let's see, where are we at here? Public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the variance application related to lot size variance request by property owner Alfred Emery Smith III at 287 Boulder Canyon Drive in the low-density residential zone.
You ready for me, Vice Chair
Yes.
Moll?
Staff, please
Okay.
present the report.
Yes. So the property owner, Alfred Emery Smith, he goes by Emery Smith III. He owns and he desires to develop and or sell the parcel. It is addressed as 287 Boulder Canyon Drive. Property is located in the low density residential zoning district that requires 16,000 square foot per dwelling unit. According to Boulder County websites, assessor's website, his lot is plus or minus 15,662 square feet. So it is under that 16,000 square foot size. Per section 16-84A, development can occur if a lot fails to meet the requirements for lot size or width, so long as it was in separate ownership. And it's understood that these lots were in the same ownership until the sale to Emery in April of 2021. Therefore, the request is before the board this evening. The lot itself is vacant, although a water tap was paid in 2018. And according to the applicant's testimony, the lot is intended to be developed for a low-density residence. Mr. Smith indicated that the lot was platted in 1953. However, more recent actions were undertaken to make it a buildable lot, which included the installation of a water hydrant. Those changes were made by the previous owner, Dan Hine. And Mr. Smith he would argue that the submitted building envelope document ensures that the setbacks are there for the low density residential development district in order to develop the lot. He's met all the requirements, including proper notices to property owners within 300 feet of the parcel and other proper public notices, although we did have to notice in the daily camera. There were no utilities, police, or fire department concerns pertaining to the variance request. At this time, if there are any questions for staff, I will do my best to try to answer them.
Any questions for the staff from the board members?
None from me.
No.
Okay.
I do have a question. Miranda probably knows exactly what this is. Do I need to recuse myself from this discussion just because I've been associated with previous owners designing buildings for this lot?
So we can't provide that guidance to you. I think that's ultimately a decision you'll have to make. Attorney Madsen, I don't know if you want to weigh in on, Debbie has been involved here.
Maybe if you can specify what your involvement is. I'm not really familiar with it.
So my daughter and I have been involved with two previous designs for the past previous owners to develop a single family dwelling on this lot.
So do you have, it sounds like, do you have a financial interest at all in the decision tonight?
I don't.
Okay. And do you have, is your interest such that you could not be fair or impartial in making a decision tonight?
No.
then unless you feel like you have a conflict that inhibits your ability to make a decision on this item as a member of the BZA, I mean, that's what your decision is do you have a conflict such that you can't participate fully as a member of the BZA, and your prior involvement weighs heavily on your ability to make a decision.
Okay, I would say that it's historical. Both those houses were historical. And so and so I don't feel biased at all.
Okay. And you haven't prejudged the application?
No.
Okay.
You are good to continue.
And you're certain that regardless of how we vote, that we won't get sued? Well, no, she's saying that she makes the decision. And so you got to make sure you don't think we'll get sued.
I think you are good,
Okay.
Board Member Davenport. But thank you for disclosing
Thank you.
your prior engagements here. Agreed.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff? Is the applicant or his or her representative present?
The applicant is present.
And you're on
Emery,
mute, Emery. You'll just need to unmute yourself. Yeah, I put everyone on mute, sorry.
You put,
About that. Yes, hi, my name is Emery.
oh, there he is. Hi.
Hi,
Please state your name and address for the record.
yes, my name is Emery Smith, legally Alfred Emery Smith III. I live currently at 176 Valley Road in Nederland.
I'm supposed to ask if you have an attorney or whether the attorney is present.
I do not, neither.
Do you wish to add anything to the staff report?
Not especially. I guess I'll just give a brief synopsis of my situation. I've lived in Nederland for something like 14 years in Big Springs and Unridge Road, and I bought this lot in 2021 with the intention of building a house there, and the plan didn't work out, and I have since decided to sell the lot instead. And it was only when I went to sell the lot that I discovered that it was smaller than the legal required size by the town. And just so everybody understands the situation, the lot is approximately 98% of the 16,000 foot required size. And it does meet all other criteria, including the width, the length and width of the lot, so, satisfy the conditions. So there's about a 338 square foot shortage in area. But the other criteria for building permit requirements can easily be met, as Debbie can confirm, since she drew the plans for it a couple of times. So yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I guess this lot has been assumed buildable by Boulder County when they gave it its own tax ID in 2018 and allowed it to be subdivided and sold separately. And I can only presume it was assumed to be buildable by the town of Nederland when they approved permits for it to be developed extensively, also in 2018. And at that time, the tap fee was paid, the water was installed, it's been connected to the town sewer, a driveway has been approved, a fire hydrant has been installed on the property. which is altogether with the building of a road to the property is, probably, I don't know exactly, but I would assume tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of infrastructure. So anyway, when I bought it, I assumed that all of that meant it was a lot ready to be built on, and that was not the case. It is too small, and I am I'm here today to to ask for this variance so that when I sell the lot, I don't pass that situation on to the next buyer. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Potentially also relevant is that there are another 2 lots in this subdivision that are in the same situation. But I don't know whether that's helpful for my case or not. But I figure it's maybe relevant for you to know that you're probably going to see two more owners in the same situation in the coming months. I think all 3 lots are just a hair below the minimum lot size, and they all were platted according to my information in 1953 and have never been changed since then. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Zoning board members, do you have any questions that are for clarification of the applicant?
None from me.
Anyone else? No?
No.
Now's the time for public comment. I will ask for public comment in favor or against the applicant or neutral. Are there members of the audience who wish to speak in favor or against or neutral?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Who's that?
Jessica Fitzer, she's online.
Oh, he's online. Okay.
Sorry.
Can you state your name and address?
Sure. My name's Jessica Fitzer. I own property in the town of Nederland. Currently at 42 Doe Trail is our property in town. I represented Emery as his buyer's agent and also potentially as his seller's agent to sell this property. I just wanted to convey that when we purchased the lot last spring, it was with documentation and understanding from the town of Nederland that it was a buildable lot. The small difference was that we didn't have the verbiage from the listing agent at the time that a buildable lot that needed a variance. So what Emery's trying to accomplish here is merely provide clarity and understanding for future buyers that they can build on this lot as long as they stay within the setbacks of the density with which it's in. He's not seeking variance to go outside of the scope of low density residential, but merely to create the understanding for future buyers that it's a completely buildable lot. So that's what I wanted to add to it. He's not looking to alter the district in with which it's in.
Any questions from the board members? Thank you. Any other comments? So I'm going to close the public comment. Any further comments from the applicant?
Nope.
I'm going to close the public hearing. Board members, any discussion or deliberation?
You'll be glad to know that I have no history of this project, and I will make no further comment.
Yeah, I would just note that we have been aware for a long time that there are a number of poorly surveyed plots in Nederland, and we can't, I believe it is appropriate not to hold the current owners liable if they bought in good faith. And I'm guessing you folks see this all the time. Just
We're seeing it this week.
this is why I have no discussion. This seems reasonable to me.
I agree. I mean, look at on the map here, the property immediately to the east, the property immediately to the south have the same problem. So it's just a matter of time. I mean, I live in Old Town, so that's an exciting place. Comes a lot of size. So, yeah, we just gotta be reasonable. It seems like it's all in good faith. We bought it. Who wants to
Probably
sell?
weren't poorly surveyed. They are what they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I agree. Right.
16,000, 44,000, or 1 acre.
Any other comments? If there aren't, I can go through the criteria.
Discussion. It's time. This makes perfect.
Okay, criteria one, that there are unique physical circumstance conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, size, exceptional topographical or physical conditions peculiar to the affected property. Looks like this just was platted small.
That seems to conform.
That because of such physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot be reasonably developed in conformity with the provision in this chapter. Sounds like that's the way it is.
Yep,
That the unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant.
seems clear that is true.
Yep,
It is not.
seems clear about that. That the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of the property. What's that?
Yes.
Speak up,
We
speak
Agree.
up, you guys. Yeah, we agree.
That's true.
And the variance, if granted, is the minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible for this chapter's provision that are in question.
Agree.
Okay, again, we're only proving a variance of a lot. And the big kettle of worms will happen when somebody wants to build a house. This one looks like a pretty easy lot to build on. So, okay, so that's the criteria.
So a few hundred.
Yeah. 100 square feet. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to approve this variance
In the resolution, yeah.
in the resolution? So where is this resolution on this?
Same.
It's page 50 of your packet if you,
Page 50? Okay.
yeah. Remember, Gillian, are you doing?
All right.
It's the
Yeah.
resolution, yeah, it's resolution 2022-02.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion to vote on
Thanks.
this?
Thanks, Julian. I'll make a motion to approve, read the script here. Approve the request for variance based upon a certain finding of fact and based upon the fact that they've met the criteria in 16232, power of the board. And that this resolution is BZA resolution 2022-02.
I'll
So
second.
you'll want to read the title of that you're approving resolution 2022-02 and then read the title.
Read the title.
Okay.
That you're making a motion to
I have
approve.
a little training here.
Right? We're all going to get it. By the time we're done, we're
All right.
perfect.
So I want to make a motion to approve BZA Resolution 2022-2, a resolution of the Town of Nederland approving a variance for 287 Boulder Canyon Drive.
Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Roger Cornell.
Great. All right.
Cynthia, give us a vote, or,
Vice Chair Mole,
I approve.
Member Davenport,
Yes.
Member Giblin,
Yes.
Alternate Member Cornell, didn't hear you, Roger.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Awesome.
Is
Motion
that
passed.
correct that we have 5 yeses?
Yes,
And-
correct.
Motion passes.
Passes. Congratulations, Emery.
The gavel has never been used more than in the last 2 days.
Heart attack.
What's that?
The gavel's never been used as much as in the last 2 days.
Oh.
No.
Do it with your left
Mayor
hand.
Taylor was
Feel it
using it.
quieter.
This is getting
Awesome.
wild.
Okay, moving right
So
along.
we're moving right along. How about a motion to take a 3 to 4 minute bathroom break?
Sounds good.
Okay. Be right back.
Some of us got the red, yellow income. Taking your phone too. Does she get a slip? Yes, she's in the cast. That's why she can't do it. She can't draw.
She's been working from home because of a broken arm. Oh my gosh.
Policeman? Mary Jones? 15 years?
No.
Who resigned? I mean, who hired last one?
I don't get that much from here.
You don't care?
I don't get out.
Yeah, well, me neither. I understand. So, did you own that property? I actually had looked, I was just the last time because of the assessments coming out. We tend to look at what's going on around you about property assessments. And I'm actually was shocked about how much undeveloped property. It's like 48% valuation or something.
Oh,
It's way more than like commercial.
crazy.
How long did you have it? Did you have a vacant lot for quite a while, or you've had
had it-
other lots?
We had it probably for 3 years, I want to say. And we were,
I would just put an outhouse up or something. I thought about like a turkey shed.
well, I've been trying to talk Darren into a yurt, but, but he didn't want to live in a yurt.
Yeah, well, I'll just put it up and say it's there, rent it, pay use.
Right?
No, I was looking, it's actually, Jackie, the lot behind me, the big lot.
Is it Jackie Jones?
Jackie Jones, yeah.
Oh,
Supposed to be to remember Jason. Yeah, it's like $8,000 a year.
shoot, boy, you need to get something on there.
That's why I think I just put a yurt up there and use it as a second home.
Right.
Because I live
Everybody
adjacent.
needs a yurt. But then you have to put your utilities on there because you can't just like have an outhouse.
Do battery.
Can you?
Well, I mean, sooner or later, you know, do it, or whatever. I was just trying to think about it.
Yeah, it's shit shape, that's for sure.
You can arm wrestle Rogers, who can drive me home.
So I won't break my arm. So I totally missed the, one part of the agenda, how to have the resolutions read. That caused a little of the confusion.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, you know, I just burned off the Ames and read the other ones, so. I'm- Then I'll forget. I
Forget, because we probably won't have variances for, I think we've,
apologize for the, just a little bit of longer, I know. Unbelievable. Brandon, I did drop off my application for the piece.
so where's he going?
Well, probably, I don't, well, maybe we need to check that out. I just turned in plan commission. You could write on there BZA for me also, and I wouldn't have to do a thing if I need to.
That's where you go.
I still never did get an answer whether or not the two of us from.
You ran out on us.
As far as I'm an alternate, I understand. I'm done with that.
He really ran out on us. I don't know where he went. He didn't go in the direction of the bathroom, I don't think. Huh? Yeah, Debbie's. She's. No, this one's gonna, well, there's, I think with this one, there's more than one variance request. It's a whole bunch. Yeah. Well, don't we have a meeting in June now because we have to? Good. See how much time I'm saving us, so. Because we've always voted on the same night. I've never had one where we had to wait.
I always read that heading off the aim too, but that's fine.
What's a new addition? This kind of thing, this thing? Oh, the resolution termination, terminology. I don't know, he went that way. I don't know what's there. Maybe he went out of the building and into the bathroom and then now he's gonna come back. Here he comes.
All right, Debbie.
60-second. 45 seconds.
Are our final applicants in the building?
We'll find out in a minute.
Yes, they are.
Okay, good.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
Okay.
But you should have, what is it called? Hearing loss. Okay, the public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the variance application related to, I'm going to give the property, 5 West 3rd Street. And I'm going to very politely ask Cynthia to list the different variance requests because there's more than one. And I know that none of them has to do with livestock.
Yes. So the final variance request that's before the board tonight is the consideration of a zoning variance application for the lot size, the allowed fence height, and a setback, couple setback variances, a 10-foot rear setback variance for the house and 2.3-foot rear setback and 4.3-foot side setback, 2.3 rear foot setback and 4.3-foot side setback for the garage by Constance Delanoy and Alexis Dubois at 5 West 3rd Street. This property is 7,922 square feet. It's located in the medium density residential zoning district, and that requires 8,000 square feet per minimum per lot and per dwelling unit. Regulations that govern the lot size and the setbacks, they are contained in section 16-33, the yard and bulk requirements. If approved for the rear setback variance for the house, the property owners desire to extend the east side of the house further to the north to meet the existing rear setback of the west side of the house to enclose the northeast corner of the home. They show it on their ILC as a roof overhang, and they also seek to record the legal nonconformance of the existing structure. And so in addition to the variance for the lot size, the variance for the house, the rear variance for the house, the side and rear variances for the garage. They're also looking for, they include an addendum in their hardship statement, the desire to erect a 6-foot fence along the property boundaries for their privacy. They argue it doesn't alter the character of the neighborhood or cause vision clearance issues for the traffic, as their property is 20 feet from the town's right-of-way. And they argue that their request will not create more dust, odor, noise, or vibration. They've met all the application requirements, including proper notice to the property owners within 300 feet of the parcel, and all the proper public notices were met. The applicants are there this evening, and they presented, or they will present a PowerPoint presentation that they created that kind of walk you through their request and give you some insight in terms of how the fence would look in various places. So I am going to ask at this time if there are any questions from staff for me or for other staff members. If the board members have any questions.
Question. So is it, because this is a multiple request, can each be considered and approved individually, or is this an complete package and the whole thing will either be approved or denied?
That is a good question. Jennifer, do you want to speak to that? Is there any?
I'm happy to address it. The requests can be approved separately or denied. So they really are separate requests. But that's also a good question for the applicant. It's possible the applicant may not want individual approval, all or one, all or nothing.
So you can't hear that for those of you who are online, but the applicant is requesting individual approval of each variance.
So we got 3 setbacks and a fence. Is that right?
And a lot size.
Oh, and a lot size.
Yep, because the lot is not forming.
Okay. All right. You know, my history, which isn't quite as long as Roger's, but on this board, it's pretty long. We have, in the past, sometimes adjusted. Like, for instance, if they wanted 10 feet, sometimes we've done 7, that kind of thing. And so I think that's something that we could do if this board feels that we need to do something like that. All right, board members, any questions of the town, any more questions of the town staff? Is the
No.
applicant, oh,
I just said no.
okay.
That's all.
Is the applicant or his or her representative present? So we have 2 people? Or 3? Okay, 3, okay. And who wants to make a presentation? And you'll need to please state your name and address for the record. And then if you have an attorney or whether the attorney is present.
I don't have an attorney, and my name is Constance Delanoy, and I live at 5 West 3rd Street. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So, could you, I guess, next. Right. So first, thanks for your consideration, and we'd like to start with some facts about our property. So the house was built in 1920 according to town records and the county assessor's office. The garage, we're unclear when it was built, but it was likely before setbacks were enforced or maybe required, and before the roundabout, the state highway, gas station, and commercial developments were put in place. We bought the house in October 2020, so it's been about a year and a half. And we're currently in the process of renovating it and bringing it up to code, which is why we brought this variance to you. So as Cynthia mentioned, there's 3 asks here. The first one is the setbacks for the main house, then forgiveness on the setbacks for the garage, and then a fence height variance. And I could just go through each separately and then let you give you time.
Please go do that, yes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so first the setbacks for the main house, which is what we consider the most important request of the 3. So we're asking for a 10-foot rear setback variance. The purpose here is to make our current house legal since it was built over setbacks. And also we'd like to be allowed to complete the L shape since the house is sort of in this L shape. We'd like to make it into a rectangle for 2 reasons. The first one is more space for our expanding family, and then also for drainage purposes, since that hole in the house, that empty space in the L, is in the northeast. So it's great at trapping snow and not melting it and creating water damage on our walls and foundation. Next, please. So here is the site plan, and in red, the red hard line is where the house currently sits over the setbacks, and then the dotted line is where that roof overhang was and where we'd like to potentially expand the house in the future to fix those drainage problems. And so on the left here, I have some key facts that we're about 17.5 setback from the northwestern corner. That's the left uppermost corner of that red line, and then a 15.5 setback on the northeastern corner. So that's the top of the dotted rectangle. We realized that these lot lines or these setbacks were made primarily for fire mitigation reasons, and here we just measured some distances using the county assessor's office tools, and we found out that we were 57 feet from our rear lot line. We're 72 feet from the rear of our northern neighbor, and our northern neighbor is also on a hill, which that's not accounted for in those measurements. But so there's plenty of space between our 2 houses. Given that the usual setbacks of 25 feet would have us put houses 50 feet apart. So we exceed that because we're 72 feet from our northern neighbor. And then next, please. And here's a zoom in version of that upper east corner, northeast corner, where you can see hopefully, that dotted line at the bottom is the primary structure setback, so that's a 25-foot setback. And then the 15 feet setback is in orange. That's our proposed new primary structure setback. So that would allow us to make the house legal and also to expand it potentially in the future. So that's a 10-foot reduction. And next. And then lastly, this is.
Huh?
Oh,
Well, I just didn't see the orange line.
Oh.
What was referred to as orange?
yeah, it's pretty hard to see. Yeah.
Marks the 15-foot setback. But it marks the
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you. Well, this is the last slide in this presentation is, well, yeah, I guess it's good that you came closer because that fence is pretty much on our property boundary, and you can see the northern neighbor that's on a hill and 72 feet from the rear of our house. And then if you go to the next slide, I believe that's the last one. Yeah, so that's it for the main house setbacks. Questions on the door? I've not finished. Oh, okay. So then next is the setbacks for the detached garage. And so what we're asking here is to forgive the setbacks of this structure since it doesn't meet them. And we understand, we have no plans of, expanding it or touching it. We just want it to be legal. So if you go to the next slide. Right, so here's what we're asking basically is to forgive a 2.3 foot rear setback. So it's going 2.3 foot above the required limit. And then a 4.3 foot side setback also that it's not meeting, just so that we can keep this structure in its current state. Next, please. And so here, oh, yeah.
Was the garage, that's for the garage, right?
Yeah.
Now, was the garage there when you bought the property?
Yeah.
So it was already there?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't know when it was built.
Okay.
And here again is where the garage doesn't meet the setback. So the issue is the northern setback and the western one. And if you go to the next slide, there's a close-up here. And so once again, we're just asking for forgiveness. We're not asking you to change the setbacks for the whole property. But you can see that there's basically, instead of being a 5 foot setback on the western side, it's currently 0.7 feet from the property line. And then on the northern side, it's, instead of being 5 feet away from the property line, it's 2.7 feet. So it's not meeting the current setback requirements, which is why we're asking to forgive those. Next, please. And then for here's what it looks like. Sorry about the construction materials since we're currently renovating. But this is from the south. So that tree here is on our property limit on the western side. And then if you go another one, next slide. Here is what it looks like on the northern side. So you can sort of see where these stones are. That's an old retaining wall. And the property boundary is just on the northern side. So just after, to the right of that retaining wall. And next, please. So that's it for the garage. All right, so now moving on to fence height. Next slide, please. So here, what we're asking for.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
On the garage, are you going to remodel it and make it bigger? Are you going to do, what's your plan with the garage?
We might redo the siding and fireproof it. But other than that, we don't have plans to expand it or, yeah. We're just going to keep it in its current shape, apart from fireproofing. All right, so what we're asking for here is a 2.5 foot variance within 100 feet of the intersection, and then a 2 feet variance within the 15 feet of the property line of a road. And the purpose here for this variance is privacy, since we're facing commercial buildings and also the roundabout and the intersection of state highways, and also the sound barrier, especially because we are facing the gas station and there's a fair amount of noise coming from their appliances there. We reviewed some of the comments in the packets from the fire department and the police, and we're happy to make any arrangements that they would request or work with them in any way to make sure that that the firemen can have access to our property. I think that was one of their concerns. And then also, our goal is not to create more traffic or accidents. So we're definitely willing to work with the police department if on any line of sight issues at the intersection. Next, please. And so here's basically where what our request, where would have an impact. So we're at the corner of 3rd Street to the south, and then Bridge Street to the east. And so on this drawing, the hard lines is where our property line is and we would like to erect the fence. you can see that the lines to the right and to the bottom, those are the city's right of way. So you can see we're 24 feet from from 3rd Street, from the actual pavement and the road. And then on the eastern side, we're 20 feet from the road. So we do believe that that means erecting a 6-foot fence there would cause no visibility or safety issues because we're past that 15 feet requirement of having a fence next to a road, except that instead of being our property, it's the right of way. Next, please. And here's an example of what it would look like with the proposed fence height. This is not the final design of the fence, it's just to give you an idea. So there's a stop sign on 3rd Street, and this is, the picture was taken from the stop sign, and that panel is where that corner of our lot is. So the fence wouldn't go beyond that. And you can see, we can see all of Bridge Street. So we wouldn't be obstructing Bridge Street from the stop sign with our fence. Next, please. And here's what it would look like from, so the left picture is taken from the top of Bridge Street. So you can see, well, you can barely see our house. We're actually down from that big pine tree on the right, but the fence wouldn't really be changing anything here, line of sight wise. And then on the right side, it's the view closer to the intersection from Bridge Street. So you can see you can still see what's going on 3rd Street from a little bit above, before the intersection. But those cars don't have a stop sign. The stop sign is next to that wooden house. So if that makes sense.
Stop signs coming off 3rd Street
Yeah,
eastbound, but
Yes.
no stop sign southbound on Bridge Street.
exactly. Yeah. Next, please. And so then why we're asking for this and why we'd like more privacy. So you can see, this is obviously Google Maps, but we're the top red dot, that's our house. And we sort of have a great line of sight down the roundabout and a lot of the businesses that are on Bridge Street and Peak to Peak. And we'll show you that in more detail after. So next slide, please. So you can actually see our house, and especially at night, you can basically see when we have the lights on, since all our windows are on the south side, you can basically see into our house from Crosscut. And on that left side, that's where I took the picture from. And that red circle is where our house is. And on the right side, that's from the roundabout. And so once again, we have yeah, especially at night, people can just see into our house from pretty far away. Next, please. And then this is the view from the western corner of our property. And just an example of what type of businesses we're facing. So there's the gas station to the left, then a few parking lots with the gas station, with the Remax on the right. That's the building, the wooden building. There's actually a fair number of people also park on the right of way directly in front of our property, which is totally fine and allowed, but it does feel like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a bit more privacy because of that. And then you have Ubon Thai, that's the restaurant right across the roundabout, and the roundabout that's just right, sort of in the middle of that picture. Next, please. And then we went around town and looked at whether it's feasible and safe to have, or whether it's been done to have 6-foot high fences at intersections. And so here's an example of one that's at the intersection of Big Springs Drive and Conger Street, which we'd argue is a bigger intersection than the one we're on, if only because those two roads are paved, and see a fair amount of traffic from BNF and some of the other businesses there. But you can see actually this, yeah, not only is this fence 6 feet high, but it's also on a berm. So, and it doesn't seem like it's bothering anyone. Next slide, please. Here are some other examples from neighboring houses. The one on the left is at Jefferson Street and Pine Street, close to Peak Highway. And then to the right is on First Street. Once again, in all these cases, there's a stop sign on one road of the intersection and not the other. Except actually to the right. I believe that's a four-way stop. Next, please. And then here are some other examples. On Macmillan Way, that's actually, and Peak Highway, that's actually a 10-foot fence. And then to the right, you might see this one when you go to the post office. That's on 2nd Street and East Street. And once again, that's a one stop sign on one of the roads in that intersection, but not the other.
How high is that fence on the right there about?
It's 5 to 6 feet. 5 feet? 5, yeah. Next, please. And then here we wanted to address whether this was going to alter the character of the neighborhood. And so we wanted to provide some examples of fences on our street. So the one on the left is actually our neighbor across Bridge Street. And they have a 5-foot fence that's actually their property line is closer to the road than ours is. And then to the right is just a few houses down. That's a 6-foot fence alongside 3rd Street. And next, please. Here are some other examples. Yeah, you can see them. These are both 6-foot fences. Next, please. These are 5 foot on the left and 5 foot on the right. Next, please. And that's on the other side, so facing Peak to Peak. And that's it.
Thank you. You have anything else, or is that it?
That's it. We do have a few extra slides in case you have questions, but unless you have questions, we don't need to show them. I mean, unless you have questions that they would answer, we don't need to show them.
Any questions from the board, other board members?
I think it was a very good presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All the photos of fences is good
yeah, it's good to have
Just can't, yeah.
a lot of input like that.
compared to.
So
Now's the time for public comment. I will ask public comment. I'm going to do this. This one's, I think I'm going to do it a little more chopped up. So I'm going to ask for public comment in favor first, and then I'll ask for a comment against, then I'll ask for a comment. How can you be neutral? Okay, individual speakers. Well, we'll try to keep it 3 minutes. We can go longer if it sounds like it's worthwhile. And I don't have a timekeeping system, but you got it. All right, so are there members of the audience who wish to speak in favor? Are there members of the audience who wish to speak against the proposal? Oh, okay, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Casey Clifford. Okay. My name's Casey Clifford, and my husband and I own the property adjacent, sharing the west boundary of 5 West 3rd Street. We own 45 West 3rd Street. And I think that aesthetically, that was an attractive presentation. I think realistically, there were a number of issues. The first one is just a general approach. Constance stated that she used the assessor's tool to measure. And my husband and I are licensed architects and contractors in Boulder County. And I know that on all the county websites, it says that you cannot, there's no accuracy in their websites. What is commonplace is working from a survey using, the surveyed corners of the properties. And I think that one of my major problems with this presentation is if variants are going to be requested, there needs to be an official site plan. I think all measurements need to be accurate based on the actual property line, the distances from the property line. statements like, I used the assessor's tool to measure this. It's X number of feet, which is plenty of space. These are already lots that are, that were platted a long time ago. They're smaller than what meet the space requirements of the town of Nederland. And so I have an issue with that. As far as the variance request for the house, I think indeed, it's one thing to try to make legal what's there. And I'm in a similar situation myself. I have compassion for that. I would support, making the structure that they purchased, that defies the property lines, allowing that. However, to then go in and allow knowingly someone to build and not meet the setbacks just because there's an L shape there and they want to fill it in, I don't think that that's appropriate. Just because we may consider allowing a non-conforming structure to then allow someone to add on in a non-conforming way is a whole nother ball of wax. And then I just want to address the fence. I think there's kind of a conflict of interest with the fence. The applicant is citing privacy. We know there are issues with animals, and I know that we're not discussing that here, but there's nothing to say that a 6-foot-tall fence would have no problem hiding a use that hasn't been approved, that's causing a lot of distress in the neighborhood. So as far as the 6-foot fence variant, all of those pictures, in my mind, showed actually that the 6-foot fence is very obtrusive. Yes, there are a lot of fences in town, but just because these obtrusive blocking fences have been built in some places doesn't necessarily mean we should allow them in others, and especially in this situation. So I know I'm out of time. I have more to say, but I will step down and let someone else talk.
Are there any more comments against? Yes, please.
Sure. Okay.
Hi there. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Laura King, and I live at 8 West 4th Street. My property abuts the rear property line of 5 West 3rd Street, so I am the immediate neighbor to the north. With regard to the variance request to reduce the rear setbacks, I do not oppose bringing the main structure, which currently doesn't meet rear setbacks, into compliance. I do oppose reducing the 25-foot rear setbacks for any future construction, which is what this variance request asks for. My understanding is that Nederland has a long-standing precedence of denying variances for new construction that further encroach on the agreed-upon setbacks. For these reasons, I ask that the BZA not grant the variance request regarding the rear setbacks as it is currently written. I would also add, after seeing the presentation, that just because my house is further from the property line than 25 feet really has no bearing on what they need to do with their setbacks. The property owners are also requesting a variance to construct a 6-foot fence on the property lines that borders 3rd and Bridge Street. I'm strongly opposed to granting this variance. The intersection of 3rd and Bridge is a busy one. There are many cars, pedestrians, cyclists, and children traversing this intersection on a daily basis. Bridge Street is steep and sometimes slippery. It is not uncommon to see cars sliding backward down Bridge Street in the winter. There is also a school bus stop at the corner, and there are 2 deaf kids living on the block. It is imperative that the line of sight be maintained at this corner for the safety of everyone who comes through this area of town. In conclusion, I oppose any new construction that further encroaches into the rear setback at 5 West 3rd Street, and I strongly oppose the construction of a 6-foot fence along the property lines at 3rd and Bridge. Thank you. Now, I have another letter of opposition from a family, and I think Cynthia knows about this, and maybe she can comment whether she was able to find the letter from Amy and Kenny Schrum that they were kind of in.
Amy had, and for those of you who have your computer,
We got that today.
Amy did just send it when the meeting happened, and so we just forwarded it to you. Vice Chair Moll, would you allow Laura to read it into the record?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a letter from Amy and Kenny Schrum.
Might I suggest that if it is a new letter, it be set to a 3-minute limit, just as each individual speaker is limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, so this is a separate 3 minutes.
That would be my suggestion.
Yes.
So again, this is from Kenny and Amy Strum. They're at 3 East 4th Street in Nederland. And the letter reads, Dear Nederland BOT and Planning Commission, and BZA, that person, they didn't write. We are writing to express our opinion on the request to build a 6-foot fence at 3rd and Bridge, the residents of Constance and Alexis. We feel strongly a 6-foot fence should not be approved. We live up the hill at Bridge and 4th, and we have 2 children who are deaf and 1 who is in a wheelchair. Our children rely heavily on their vision, as does most everyone, to assess cars, bicycles, pedestrians, and oncoming traffic. This is a family neighborhood with many children riding bikes, walking into town to the library, etc. Our children ride their bikes in motorized wheelchair down Bridge into town, and a 6-foot fence would block the line of sight of traffic for pedestrians, cyclists, and the drivers at the intersection of Bridge and 3rd. Nederland is already an extremely difficult town for children to learn independence on their bikes due to lack of signaled crosswalks, legitimate sidewalks, bike paths, etc. We also agree with the current code regarding livestock in town and feel the code should be enforced as written. Please see our signed petition below. Thank you, Kenny and Amy Schramm. My last comment, this one's from me, is just that many of those fence pictures were not at intersections. And so it's a unique intersection in that it's very, very steep. I've seen people skateboarding down it. There are people coming down that hill in ways that aren't 100% safe on their end. Sliding backwards, sliding frontwards. It's just not an intersection I don't think that we should make any less safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public hearing comments?
Yeah, this is Mickey Osterloo. I'm online. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can't see you though.
I can see if I can start my video. It might connect. Okay. Hello. So I know I sent a letter in. I had just one more comment. I live at 97 East 3rd Street. One of the comments that I had was around their property size, conforming to medium density residential. They cite they are just under the 8,000 square foot limit, but I just wanted to point out, and you guys probably know, many of the parcels that are along 3rd Street are also well below that 8,000. So I don't think that should be used as any sort of like consideration for granting an reduction in setback for new construction. So that was the one thing that I wanted to bring up. The other is that I think a lot of the fences that were shown, I know that there was a handful that might have been 6 foot, and at least one of them was to enclose I believe it's a marijuana grow. So that kind of is a commercial exception, and I hope that went through the process of the BZA. The other ones I don't think are close to 6 feet from my own survey around town. So there's that aspect. I think that the one thing that I also want to point out, and I point out in my letter, is that the town hasn't changed significantly in the last 2 years. So everyone that has purchased or has lived or lives on 3rd, 4th, in our small neighborhood, yeah, you can see downtown. I think all of us, I bought almost 10 years ago and I knew what I was getting into. So I don't think that there's really anything that would make it a increase in traffic or an increase in tourists downtown or new businesses downtown. The downtown has been there for a long time. So asking for now an exception to build a very large fence that will likely make the intersection more hazardous for privacy is really not a logical or reasonable request in my mind. So yeah, that was my only additional comment or stress. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, public comments against? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak that are neutral? I see some police and fire people there. You guys have any comments on this fence stuff?
But
Okay.
Marshall Feinlevin does have her comments in the AIM, and one of her comments is just a concern about the sight line. It's on page 57 of your packet. She indicates, Chief Jennifer Feinlevin indicated that depending upon location of the fence line, it could create a line of sight issue on the corner of West 3rd and Bridge Street. Larry's pretending to be retired, so that's why.
There's also a comment from the fire department.
There is a comment from the fire department as well, where Fire Marshal Rick Hendrickson said there was no issues with the lot size or setback variances. He expressed concern about access in the event of a fire for the proposed fence height. He noted that a 3 to 4 foot tall fence is easily traversed, but not a 6-foot fence unless there's easily openable access on each side of the lot.
Great, thanks. There's no more public comment. I'm going to close the public comment. Does the applicant have any further comments?
Just want to clarify that.
Name and address.
So I'm Alexis Dubois. I'm Constance's husband. I live at 5 West 3rd Street. So we just want to clarify that for the first setback for the main house, so the house has always already been at a 15-foot setback. So we were just trying to put that as a legal place and potentially maybe in the future to add an addition. But mainly it's that we are putting the whole house up to code. We are putting installation like the whole shebang that you put in there. So we want to make sure that in the future we don't have to rip up the entire house. So just making that sure. And then maybe to respond to Mickey there, she can take her tape measure and go measure the fences herself. And then, yeah, I mean, there's a few things that were said that, yeah, but we are happy to have a surveyor survey the distance or whatever, but happy to answer more questions.
I'm sorry, I missed the name on the record. All I heard was Constance's husband.
Alexi is how he said it. He's one of the folks asking for the variance.
Alexis Dubois.
If there's no further testimony, the public hearing is now closed. So I have a clarifying question. Probably have staff. Kind of going along what Roger's story was earlier about how we have a town full of non-conforming properties, and then we finally passed a statute saying we can have non-conforming properties and we can accept, people can get asked for variances as long as that variance doesn't add to the non-conformity. So I think when you're asking for, what's it called? You said, what was the word you said? Forgiveness for the garage?
Setbacks on the north.
For the setbacks on the garage. That's kind of done when the town passed that ordinance. Is that correct, Miranda? Or
Yeah, do you want to weigh in on that?
Cynthia? Want me to
Yeah,
restate
I mean,
that?
I would think that it's maybe not the right terminology in terms of forgiveness, but it would be an acknowledgement of this is where it's built. They've laid out the distances to the rear and side setbacks. So they're asking for very specific measurements in order to make that garage setback to legally record that non-conformance. So I think, forgiveness is a word. It's ethically, you're looking at the variance request that they made for those distances. And they're not asking for any more distance than just that to reach the setback for the rear and the side for the garage.
Can I weigh in on this too?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, so for the garage setback, what I heard from the applicant is that they're not requesting any changes to the garage structure. They're just asking that the garage be allowed to stay where it is, and that the variance request is essentially to put the setback where the garage structure is. Well, that really fits within section 16-181B, which provides for continuation of non-conforming uses or structures. So that I think is what you're referring to, is that section of the code allows a property owner to continue to occupy a non-conforming structure, provided the structure isn't changed or there's no alteration to that structure. So that sounds exactly like, I'm not sure why a variance is needed for the garage.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is, I don't think it is needed.
Right.
We're not the Catholic Church or and we don't do forgiveness, and we don't, and the statute does grandfathering, to use a Nederland term, grandfathers in the garage. And so I think you're okay on that without getting a variance from us.
I guess I'm just curious if the applicants are just looking for that to be like kind of captured and memorialized in this resolution, or that's what you're looking for versus trying to have it in this non-conforming lot. You want it documented as such?
Yeah, I mean, we
And
just,
then
go ahead.
I think one of the issues though is that if you give them a variance, then they can change the structure. Just know that.
Well,
And you're talking about changing in terms of remodeling it, or changing it in terms of
Yeah, I
expanding?
mean, then they would have the variance on the property for any accessory uses, and they could tear down the garage and rebuild it and do something different to it. There's no reason to have a recorded document.
I have a question.
So in other words, they could continue to use it as it exists, but if it were to, for example, be destroyed by a fire, then in its present state, it wouldn't be able to be rebuilt as it currently exists. It would have to be rebuilt to adhere to setbacks. If a variance was granted, then another structure could be rebuilt to encroach the way it currently does. Does that capture it, Attorney Mattson?
Yes, I mean, there's specific language as to the percentage of destruction or damage. It has to be 75% for it not to be able to be rebuilt.
181B, yeah.
And maybe to clarify from our perspective, it's really like we are mainly looking at the main house, and we want to just document that this garage is grandfathered in, and we are planning to maybe put just some like fire protection around it, fireproof it, but that's pretty much it. So we're not looking at, destroying it and putting a new one or
Well,
whatsoever.
I have a question on that. I mean, on permitting, because you mentioned before on the house that you wanted to like bring it up to code with insulation and stuff. So does it, if you want to make an improvement on the existing building, say, fireproof cladding on the garage and insulation and probably cladding on the back of the existing house. So for sake of a permit, I think they need for those things, does it have to be within the actual, the legal setbacks, or do they need this variance so they can like put insulation and cladding on the buildings in the setbacks?
You're talking,
I'm asking Cynthia presently,
yeah.
is that, would they need that to just do the upgrades of the existing structures?
I mean, in some cases it's circumstantial. I would say in this case, if they were making like small, minor repairs, but they weren't altering anything, I would think that would be okay. But certainly, I would want to ensure that it was clear where it's located, because especially with the accessory structures, you don't need to build an accessory structure within a certain size. So not everyone checks in about the zoning aspects, about the setbacks and things like that. This is obviously a long time existing building. And so I think that, yeah, if they, I mean, the structure is predominantly on their lot, and they could access it to add insulation or fireproof. But it does bring up the question of, are they encroaching on, I mean, they're encroaching on the setbacks, they're not encroaching on their neighbor's property. So I think it's okay. What do you think about that, Attorney Mattson?
In terms of just doing, minor repairs, not changing the footprint of any of the structures, that's fine. They could still get the permits to do that work.
Can we just,
I'm not even sure if permits are necessary for all of that. I don't know.
I'm just wondering if we can confirm with the applicant that they're okay, then that if this was removed from your variance request, that's not a concern for you, since you do meet the non-conforming lot section of code.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the day I want to put stucco on there or another like fireproofing, I'm okay. And I think it's a good point.
So I think that requires a permit. Siding.
Yes.
Putting on stucco would further encroach, and that is certainly one of the issues that we are considering here. So to put on stucco without the variance would be a problem.
So it sounds like then you do want to keep the variance for consideration here.
Yes, and we might have to add, like, I don't know, like, put like 1 inch. And the reason here I want to put stucco is not for prettiness, it's really for fireproofing, because we know we are so close to the setback or to the property line, and we all know that having more fireproofing structures would help the whole town. So, I mean, if there was no fires, I wouldn't put anything on it, but it's really just for safety for the neighborhood. So I believe that then, yeah, we might need like just the extra inch of stucco on there, but.
So I think then you are still considering all 5 variance components.
Yes. Okay.
I wonder, I mean, can the BZA ask for an actual survey? I did think that was kind of a good point. I don't know.
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
you
we can
think,
make
but
it a
that- I
condition.
thought that was, I mean, so far everything we've seen
Right.
we've seen real plans and real surveyed.
If you have requests and then have the applicants come back because you need further documentation, that is a fair ask if that's what you're seeking.
Yeah, I mean, I guess since we're talking about 7/10 of a foot and adding an inch or 2 inches, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's a game of inches.
So
Survey.
the survey there was done, like it's a full survey by a surveyor. It's not us drawing lines.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I just want to make clear the survey there is an official survey.
It is.
Yeah, so we
So
did
there-
it.
Oh, so those numbers weren't pulled off assessors.
No, that's the lady behind me that maybe there's one number, just the distance between our house and our neighbor house. That's the only number we took from the assessors.
Oh,
All the rest is an actual full surveyor. So just to make it clear.
So there is an
Then it's done.
in the agenda packet on page 64. Then the applicants provided further documentation in their presentation.
Wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No, it's not. It's an actual survey, and the corners have been staked with the stamp of the surveyor. His name is Carl. What is his full name?
Swift.
No, we have our own survey.
Chair. We can't have discussions going on here in the room.
Oh, no, just trying to find a page.
No, we're having a discussion with the audience.
Oh, yes.
I, I need to go back to, I'm not confused, but I very clearly thought I heard our attorney tell us that, if we grant this variance, then those setbacks will always be there. They could rip the house, the garage down or add on to it and then do whatever, quite substantially change that building. And then we got into the discussion of like 1 inch of stucco, and I don't think anybody or any building inspector is gonna go measure to say, oh, you're 1 inch closer to the thing. So I personally feel like the original input from our attorney was that, we should not do this variance.
Okay, but what I was trying to get clear on is, because if they want to put siding on, they're supposed to get a permit. And so if they need a permit, are they going to be able to get a permit to put fireproof cladding on the existing garage, whether it's an inch or whatever? I agree. I think that doesn't really matter, but
Well, here we go with the building thing then. So the question would be a non-conforming garage be able to get a building permit?
for a
For
improvement, yeah.
siding, or to get re-roofed. You essentially haven't changed a thing, which is totally different from, say, adding on a whole nother extension under it. So that's the issue, and I guess we don't really know, but, which way we go, but, well, if we didn't do it, if we didn't act on a variance for the garage right now, when they came, which I think they could actually re-roof or do a siding, repaint, do that type of thing. But if they couldn't, then they could certainly request a variance then.
Sure. I guess I was trying to get that answer now, so they could just have the information and just know whether to pull this and go with nonconformity or to stick with it and try to
So
get a
the
variance.
issue would be then to get rid of variance and then allow kind of carte blanche on that garage, or leave it the way it is.
Right, so I do think if the applicant has an interest to keep this in, then the Board of Zoning Adjustment could deny it, if that's your preference, and keep it as that non-conforming lot, or the applicant could choose to request that it not
No,
be considered.
it's fine, and we're just planning on putting fire cladding on it, so maybe if we should, that's okay with everyone, that's all I'm asking. We are not trying to build.
We're just trying to find out if it's okay with the people that it needs to be okay with, which is Cynthia, basically.
But she's not really the building inspector.
And of course, we can't predict if the permit would be granted when the request was made, but yes, yeah.
And Julian, I wasn't really trying to argue either way. I was trying to clarify.
Yeah, I understand. I'm very, I myself am very concerned about granting the variance, because if this garage were to burn down, I would want the next building to be in compliance with the existing setbacks.
Which,
And we are fine with.
oh, okay.
So we are not against that.
That's really all we're saying by, if we were to deny that particular variance, you'd be in the same boat. Everything's fine. You're grandfathered in by law. So, but there's no need to say we can permanently leave a building that close to the boundary, even if this one burned down. That's basically, I think, our concern.
Right. It says with 16181B, if the damage to the building is at least 75%, then it would have to be built to proper setbacks.
Yeah, and that's
Rebuild.
fine with us. We're just trying to preserve the garage and trying to rebuild it.
Sure. If you stick with nonconformity and let the variance go.
All right. Sounds good.
I was trying to get clear on that.
Yeah, no.
Myself and for you.
Thank you.
So Vice Chair Moe, were you going to try to take these variances one at a time and then run each variance through the 5 criteria?
Yeah, I think that would be the way I'd want to do it. That makes sense?
I think, yes.
That's two lot size.
Well, let's do any more comments?
So I do want to just caution, once you close, and I believe you kind of did, but once you close the public hearing, ideally your engagement with the applicant is done. You just go to
Right.
deliberation. So if there are any further questions for the applicant,
Any-
now would be the time.
Last call for the applicant. Or anyone else? Yes.
Just wanted to comment that if you're 0.7 of a foot from a property line that you're working on the building, you pretty much need to be on the neighboring property to work on that building.
Yeah, and if you have good relations with your neighbors, that's not a problem, and I guess that's not for us to decide.
A lot of neighbors are here.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah.
Yep.
It was more like regarding the 6-foot fence. There's a lot of talk about it's going to take out the line of sight and so on. And I think from the slide and the picture, it was very visible from the stop sign in the Prius. So a low vehicle, look left, you see the entire street. And then also the street is upward, so you actually see it from up there. So, I mean, and we are happy to work with the police to confirm with them that they would be happy with that, or if that goes through. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I have questions, it's more on the other things now. Just before you go, before we cut you loose. So I think the points brought up is good. Like if we give a variance on the back of the house, and they're free to build more. They're free to square out the house, which is what it is. We just have to be clear of that. And as for the 6-foot fence, so those pictures, I mean, it's kind of hard to visualize because looking at the pictures like near the marijuana place behind the B&F, and I mean, those all seem that was a 6-foot fence up on a berm, and you kind of have that berm. I guess maybe you brought it down. I'm not sure, but like the pictures where you're holding the blue insulation or whatever that was, I mean, that did seem like a pretty clear line of sight from what I could see. Because you're 20 feet off
Bridge
the right of way of Bridge and 24, 25 off Third.
24, yeah.
Okay, that's where the fence starts, basically. I mean, the fence,
Correct.
outside edge of the fence.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't have any questions right now.
Yep. Well,
I'm good.
if I could, Chair, I would suggest that we would, if we do lot size and if we have more questions of the applicant for each one of the.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
We can certainly
Sorry.
bring them up, but I think we should try to, just do one of.
Okay.
I sounds good. I thought Jen was asking us to, or someone was asking us to
Well,
ask him all the questions and.
Well, I was going to say, if you were going to close the public hearing, if you want to deliberate and continue to engage with the applicant for further clarification, I wouldn't close your public hearing yet because you are then still engaging with the applicant.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So, but we can do our own.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, so you're saying we can't discuss? if we
No,
close
no.
the-
So once you close the public hearing, there should be no discussion or there should be no questions or comments for the applicant.
So as long as we don't close
So
the public hearing, we can keep on going like we're
Right, you
going, and we can
continue
ask.
to engage.
So we can do our own discussion and deliberation.
Right. So if you want to ask clarifying questions, this is the great time to discuss and then seek that clarification from the applicant.
Okay. So, members, let's do our deliberation and discussion. Let's talk about, Roger wants to talk about the 10-foot variance. So let's go with that.
Oh, that was a lot. Well, we haven't closed the public hearing yet, right?
Yeah, so I'm looking to maybe Attorney Madsen. The guidelines here that Vice Chair Mull has are a little confusing. So you can ask clarifying questions of the applicant or staff prior to closing the public hearing, but there should be no debate or discussion. When you close the public hearing, there should be no questions and comments from the applicant. So Attorney Madsen, sounds like they are looking to do a little deliberation with the opportunity to ask the applicant questions.
Right, that's fine. And don't close the public hearing if you're going to still be asking questions, because after you close a public hearing, then essentially that if you were to ask a question, that wouldn't be in our box of potential facts for you to be considering.
But we can go ahead and do our deliberation and discussion.
That's fine. Yes. Yes.
All right, board members, let's do it. Let's talk about the 10-foot rear setback for the house. So this is the one that I think determines whether they can add that, fill in that L.
The variance would allow them to just operate inside the new 15-foot setback, a 10-foot reduction, or forgiveness, sorry, 10-foot reduction of the, code setbacks. Variance, thank you.
So I wanted to be clear then with the applicant, so I'm glad we sorted that out because I guess for many, many years we were doing it wrong where we continued to, so it's clear that the northern wall of the existing wall of the house that's 10 feet. So there's we need a variance for that, but that's not going to move.
With nonconformity, it's
so the house is not gonna move. We're not gonna extend whatever is there.
It's just an extension of that north wall to the east. I just want to be clear on that.
yeah, you square off the house to the northeast corner, and it kind of, it kind of angles, so it goes a few more inches farther
They
north.
weren't going to fill in the little square. All we would be doing is making a variance to bring the house is not necessarily into compliance, but to make it the variance for
But
the existing house that's there.
But I think based on what Jen said, and like it falls into nonconformity if we don't want to do anything, but if we make the variance, then they're free to.
I just want to be clear that, yeah, we weren't changing that north wall of the existing house. Okay. Yeah, there was that whole red line thing there, which wasn't real clear. Okay. So it'd be the setback 10 feet. And then would we,
So is that not already,
we need to actually state that they can continue it X amount of feet to the east.
Yes, you're right.
No, otherwise we're just giving them a variance for the existing house.
Yeah.
If they want, if that should be our discussion,
You're right.
if they should be able to do that. And is there does the east line of the house, that's within the setbacks? Here, let's see, wait a minute.
Correct. It's a 10-foot setback, and we are.
So that meets it.
Yeah, correct.
What is the side setback? I have that here somewhere. Oh, the side is only 10 feet, so it just needs to be 10 feet from the property line for the side. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they wouldn't need a variance on that.
Right.
The east side, no. Yeah. On the north side.
It's really the north side of any new construction.
Well, want to go through the stuff, Chair? See if
All right.
it meets the-
Let's take a look at what they got here. Page 57, I need page 56. Here it is. Let's talk about a 10-foot rear setback variance. And if that's unique physical circumstances, conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or size of lot, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar.
I don't think there's a unique situation as far as the configuration of the lot. I think the unique situation is that the house originally was placed there and then the zoning setbacks came afterwards.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything that you could say about this lot that says that it's peculiar or creates a hardship.
When we go like consideration of zoning variance application, when I go to the beginning of the aim for lot size, I mean, should we just strike lot size? Because it's kind of moot, like it doesn't, it's kind of like the last two things we've seen. It's less than 8,000 square feet, but it's kind of irrelevant to everything else we're asking for. Is it not, or am I missing something? I mean, it's 70, it's just shy of 8,000 square, 7922, but that's not really, what we're here to discuss, are we? And they've already got building.
Request for a
It is a
variance.
request.
Okay.
It has been requested.
To, like, what specifically are we?
A variance in the lot square footage.
Oh, to just say the 7922 is a legitimate
Yes,
MDA.
become a compliant lot.
Okay.
It's now a non-compliant lot because of square footage.
And,
Okay.
Okay.
and you're not wrong, Billy, that sometimes it seems redundant, but historically, what I've always been told, you want people to come and do the variance.
Sure.
So you at least want them to do that, so you have a formal step of seeing it through and making that document a legal document. So that's why you asked for that variance.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, the first one, yeah, what we're doing the 10-foot in, but yeah, the
That
lot
was the
then would
second.
be the other one, yeah.
The first request was to be.
Oh, the lot
The
size,
first request is lot.
lot size, yeah.
That's what I asked.
Okay.
Let's do the lot size.
Okay, lot size, all right, so. And that because of physical circumstances or conditions, the property cannot be reasonably developed in conformity with the provisions in this chapter. Again, its lot size is just a bit smaller than it's supposed to be.
Right. So it's not really a.
Unnecessary hardship not be created by applicant. It was the way it was since
Right.
1920.
Correct.
And that's why it needs a variance.
Right. And the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district of the property or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development properties. No.
Agreed.
no.
Maybe
And let's see.
C.
I already went through C.
Yeah,
I
we're
went
on-
through D.
Or E, I think.
Or D. Variance if requested is minimum variance for relief and the least modification possible for this chapter's provisions which are in question. Right.
So it meets those five, lot size.
Yeah, the lot size meets all five.
All right. So, yeah, we want to make a motion.
Okay, I want to do one at a time.
So
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, let's agree about whether we want to do a motion.
two previously that were very similar, so I guess we should.
Yeah.
Real quick, if we're doing motions, there's only one BZA resolution 2022-03, but we got four things. How are they identified?
Can I jump in here too? I think maybe findings of facts on this one would be proper because you have so many. And because you also have only one resolution. So coming back later, as was going to be the plan originally for the other two variances, I think coming back at a later date to have you approve findings of fact, and then your decision is the best way to handle this particular application.
So Attorney Madsen, would they make a motion when there was consensus on those findings?
Yeah. Yes, you could do that. Yes. And then we could come back later with a specific written, there needs to be a written document, and we don't really have that tonight.
So are you saying that when we come back, we will be reviewing this in four different aspects with four different resolutions rather than just under one umbrella?
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe it'll depend on what you decide. Actually, I don't know. It depends on what you decide.
Okay. All right. So
what type, so we just went through it, we all pretty much had consensus of the items for, that we agreed with. Section 16-232 for lot. So what kind of a motion do we want for a finding of fact for that Or should we wait until the do finding of fact? Should we do a motion for finding of fact for
Yes.
lot size each one?
I think that would be the cleanest for the record.
So
Okay.
basically, what should we be saying for the, what do you want to hear in the motion?
What your finding is, Attorney Madsen, is there further?
And direct, the motion would be to direct the town attorney to draft findings of fact to approve the variance request for the lot size.
All
And
right,
to come back with written findings of fact and that approval.
so moved.
I'll second.
Cynthia, do you want to call a vote just so it's in the record?
Yes, give me just a second here. That was Cornell with the motion, and I'm sorry, who was the second?
All.
Mark.
Oh, you, Vice Chair Mall. All right. Yes, so for this first one, we are gonna go down the list. Vice Chair Mall,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Member Davenport.
Yes.
Member Davenport.
Yes.
She said yes.
Okay, alternate member Cornell.
Yes,
Member Giblin
Yes.
and Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes
It passes.
for the lot size.
That's a lot size.
I'm going home.
To
Oh,
draft the findings of fact. So one of the requests down and
3 more to go.
more to go, 4 more to go.
Well, there's,
Well, I think that the agreement is that we're not doing the garage.
no, we'll put the,
Yes.
or we'll do the garage. There's two setbacks, but it's one garage. We could do those together.
Yes.
But I think we were talking about just letting them fall under non.
So the next is the 10-foot rear setback for the house. All right, let's see. I have way too much paper here. Unique physical circumstances or conditions such as irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or size of lot, or exceptional topography, topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to affected property.
I don't believe there are.
No, I don't think so.
Mm.
That because of physical circumstances or conditions of property cannot be reasonably developed in conformity with the provisions of the chapter.
I don't believe that's true either. You could build to the south and be inside the setbacks.
Yeah. Or to the west.
Mm-hmm.
That such unnecessary hardship has not been created by the applicant.
making the request, it is being. Well,
No,
I
it's,
think there's two parts of it. So the actual, to bring the house into compliance, but then the request is to extend the north
East.
building line to the east. So that's where, has been created. I mean, so on all of them, so on other ones, the idea of just bringing the house into compliance the way it exists is one thing. To add to it is a secondary
There
request.
are reasons for the setbacks, and to allow the applicant to build into those setbacks when there are other options for the house seems to be an unreasonable request to me. That would be my view. So to say what you've got is fine, you're grandfathered in, that's already in the law. But then to say you can build even further into the setback strikes me as, if that were the only direction to build, then I'd be thinking about it differently. But lots of room to build onto that land that doesn't go into the setback. So that's my thought on it.
And there's probably different ways to manage the snow that melts and stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Everybody has a north side of their house.
Yeah. D, that the variance if granted will not alter the social character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of the property.
Not really.
Won't really change the neighborhood if they filled in that one little square, but.
Right.
And that the variance if granted is the minimum variance that will afford relief and the least modification possible for this chapter's provisions which are in question.
And there, I think we may have a problem in that there are other directions to build, and it's not absolutely required that they build further into their forbidden zone. So I'm not certain that it complies there.
No, doesn't.
Hey,
Okay.
yeah, I totally agree. I just have a note here on whoever's doing these aims on number D, letter D. It's supposed to say at the end of it, it's supposed to say or development of the adjacent property. At least that's how the code reads. That kind of is different than how it states without the word adjacent. So Mark was reading that one way earlier and I was reading another. Now I'm seeing why. Probably needs to be fixed for future aims.
Make a finding of fact, and which were the A, B, which ones did we find?
C and E. C and E we had. Right. Right, or was it B and E? B and E.
Well,
A for
I
sure.
felt like we didn't feel like it met A, does not meet
I
A,
don't think
signed
it-
in fact. Which were the ones?
I don't think it met, it meets D and I think that's it.
Okay, I agreed with that.
Or,
Right, D was what you guys had noted that it met. The other conditions it doesn't meet. The third condition that the unnecessary hardship is not created by the applicant. Just bringing the house into compliance wouldn't do that, but to extend the north line to the east would, the applicant would be creating their own hardship.
okay.
And Mayor pointed out that by doing nothing, his grandfather did. So we need to find a finding of facts. We should have written the memo down, shouldn't we have? That the attorney gave us the draft.
I said, direct, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong. I was trying to write that down. So we, approve or deny, so we direct the findings of facts. I think we said it was like direct you to.
Direct the town attorney to prepare and draft the findings of fact with I'm assuming a denial of the request for variance.
Okay, so, I think. Is there that script there? So I think, I'm making a motion that we direct the town attorney to prepare and draft, findings of fact, based, is this where I insert based on, criteria? That's where, is this where I insert those? Okay. Wait, I'm making a motion to direct the town attorney to prepare and draft findings of fact to deny the variance for the 10-foot,
Yep.
rear setback variance for the house, based on
A, B, A, and E.
criteria A, B, C, and E not being met.
Second.
That was a motion by Billy and second by Cornell.
Correct.
All right, we will go down the list. Vice Chair Mall,
Yes.
Member Davenport,
Yes.
Member Giblin,
Yes.
alternate member Cornell,
Yes.
and Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
I have a point of order. I have a question regarding what we do with the aim that is before us. We are clearly dicing the aim up so that we can deal with things separately. Are we going to table the original aim, or it's not a matter of we're denying the original aim, it's a matter of we're saying that's not how we're going to address this?
Well, and the aim
what's
is
the
just like a
process?
guiding document.
Okay, so we can just,
yeah.
okay.
What you're doing is fine.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done the lot size and the 10-foot rear setback for the house. I recommend that we take the 2.3 foot rear setback and the 4.3 foot side setback for the garage and combine those.
And
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's really kind of fallen into the same category as the last one,
Well,
or if we recommend. Yeah. Okay.
They're requesting it, we still got to address it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can I offer a suggestion? You could ask the applicant if they want to withdraw that request.
I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess. So
Well, you got to,
Would you like to withdraw the request for the setbacks for the
yeah,
accessory structure?
I'll withdraw it to the condition I can put like fire cladding for the safety of the town. If you can record that on your minutes, it would be great.
so we don't have to vote on that now.
No, I mean, so I don't know if you heard him, Alexi wants to withdraw the variance for the accessory setbacks, as long as that's going to work for putting siding on, and I guess that is not in our wheelhouse.
Just a note, we can't make that deal here. We have no control over
Right.
who's going to give permission to extend it.
Yeah.
Right.
but-
If you wanted to put cladding on that, you wouldn't be coming to us.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess if you find out from the town that you need to, then we'll see you then.
We'll see you again.
But I mean, I think I don't think we can say anything legally about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was Albright, the discussion that we had
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
About the pros and cons of that variance.
I think we're at the fence.
And so, or the final one would be the fence height variance. Now, Cynthia.
Yes.
So they can put a fence up, but it's restricted to 3 feet, is that correct?
Correct. There are requirements for fencing, and a lot of those requirements, the fence requirements are a little interesting in places. It notes that you can't use toxic materials in the central business district for a fence only. It doesn't say you can't do that in the other districts. So there's some need to work on what is existing in the fence code, but as it exists, it does note certain requirements, and height is one. So where they would not meet those requirements, they were looking to exceed it, and mostly it relates to the distance to a road, and that is for vision clearance issues. So they are looking to exceed. What could be done is the fence could be stepped down in places That's what some people do is they'll step it down. The main considerations here are 1689. So this is the fence code. And the main consideration is C, it shall be unlawful for any person to construct or erect any fence exceeding 4 feet in height within 15 feet of any lot line bordering upon any street or road or within the central business district. And E, it shall be unlawful for any person to construct or erect any fence exceeding 3 feet in height within 100 feet of the center of any intersection of 2 or more streets or roads. Now, their improvement survey plat that's in the packet, they had documents that noted, or I should say in their presentation, they noted they were 24 feet from West 3rd Street and I believe 20 feet from West Bridge. So it looks like they may not have an issue with C, that they're over 15 feet, if those are correct measurements, from the lot line bordering any street or road, but presumably they wouldn't be able to meet the 100 feet of any center of any intersection of 2 or more streets or road, where their fence would need to be 3 feet in height. Some of the pictures that they showed, they were also off the highway, so the right of way for the highway is different than in the town. But that is the main consideration. And with respect to those heights, it's about vision clearance. So it's trying to ensure that visual obscurances are not going to be created or exacerbated. It's not going to affect traffic. People are going to be able to see. Keep in mind that in the wintertime, snow builds up and that can add to obscurity on a fence or, add to the size of the obscurity. So really that's kind of what you're looking at. And I think that the applicants did a good job showing those pictures as they kind of illustrated where the edge of the fence line would be as you're coming down the road, to kind of give you a visual idea of what that would look at. But those are the considerations there.
Okay. But they can put a fence there. It just at this point has to be 3 feet, and they're asking for 6.
Correct. They can put a fence up. They absolutely can. Where the fence doesn't obscure vision clearance, if it's not obscuring any other aspects of the fence code, they can absolutely do it. So if it's, in the backyard and it's not going to obscure any other aspects of the fence code, they could do that there. But what they are looking to create this fence for is to create privacy. So they had noted that they can, they have a lot of visual capacity on their fence, being able to both see from their lot and see into their lot across town. And so they're looking to create more privacy for their property. And that part would go against what's allowed in the fence code for the fence heights.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I think board members, we can either deny a variance and they can still put up a 3-foot fence. We can approve a 6-foot variance and they can put up a 6-foot fence. Or we could say, you can put up a 5.5-foot fence or a 5-foot fence or a 4-foot fence.
About the step down, is that something that you mentioned, the step down? But does the step down, would that need a variance if you're within 100 feet of the intersection?
So.
No, if they were able to step down 100 feet's, large distance, when you consider that general highway right of way is about 120 feet across, 60 from center. So that's a pretty big distance. But when I say step down, I mean step down the height. So maybe it's, 6 feet at one place and then step down to 3 feet where that exists, where anywhere it would obscure the fence code. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I need clarification to see from from everybody. It says, shall be unlawful to construct or erect any fence exceeding 4 feet in height within 15 feet of any lot line. So it's actually saying you can't put it on your lot line. I mean, I think there's been a lot of discussion about street. And, you know, the street was over here, then there's public right of way, and then there's lot line. So C saying that what, is that what that C saying?
He's talking about C on page 55.
1689
C says you basically can't put a fence on your lot line exceeding 4 feet. And then I also had a question of Cynthia, I suppose. We've had BZA a long time, but I haven't really been that many BZA meetings. Is anybody aware of us ever giving a variance for a fence? Certainly hasn't come from me.
No, I think I have, but I can't remember. And I don't know if we gave the variance. It's been a long.
We had a question about it. They didn't come to a variance request, but there was a question about this and discussion about asking for a variance for a property owner in the central business district. But I haven't heard any other requests in the time that I've been here about the fence code in particular.
And it seems like possibly there's been several fences gone up, with or without approval, who knows? That was very enlightening to see all those pictures there. I question whether or not, we should give a variance and just say that, this is not saying they couldn't build a fence, or even if they're allowed to build 6 feet, whatever the criteria of our code says, then they just have to step down and at that appropriate place, whatever it may be. And that would be my last question, hopefully, is that who's going to rule? Would the police department come out and say, from this point to this point, you have to work on, who's going to approve the vision clearance? If it has to go down to whichever 3 feet or whatever it has to be from these guidelines. Does the building inspector approve this?
I think it would, so we do kind of design review committees when permits are pulled, and so it's that would be collaborative between police, fire, building, to understand that's the expectations for this parcel and how they were going to construct that fence.
So
I guess I don't know if you want to ask the applicant, though, if they're open. I think you did indicate in your presentation you were open. I just want to confirm that the applicant is open to that.
that's possible,
A step
but
down.
if we find in our findings of facts, then, it's not, certainly we'd have a discussion, ask them, but whether or not, if we find in our finding of facts that we're just not going to give a variance and to build the fence per code, whatever that may be, and per approval of
Town.
staff. I guess that's what I'm not suggesting, but that was kind of question I was asking. And we've certainly, I think Cynthia said, as long as I've worked, I'm not aware of giving a variance, and I don't know when we should start giving a variance. I guess I'd like.
Good point.
Wait,
Yeah.
no,
Well, it's part of we do variances and there's and fences are part of that. We don't see them a lot.
Part of chapter 16. So it's part of what would be within the purview of the board is provisions of the chapter. It's section 16-89. So no, we have not had anyone come forward to request a fence variance that I have seen. We had someone come forth who deconstructed part of a fence. This was probably about 2013 or 2014, and part of their fence blew down and they just wanted to replace it, but it wasn't meeting the setbacks, and so they had to come forward for a variance, but that's the only one I've seen in 9 years.
So, I've been looking at the house on my phone, and we're told that the fence is for the purpose of privacy, and yet a 6-foot fence around a 2-story house certainly gives privacy to the first floor, but not to the second floor. Perhaps a better way to get privacy would be blackout curtains. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the height of the fence within that neighborhood as well. There aren't any other fences that high in the neighborhood. And as a general rule, we try to pay attention to the conformance of any structure to the surrounding neighborhood. I'm not stating that that's why it would be rejected. I'm just saying that that's a concern. And is consistent with our comprehensive plan that we try to keep the neighborhoods fairly uniform and fairly consistent. So I'm concerned that I'm also concerned about. I found that the argument regarding ice on the road and really wanting to have a nice sight line as you're approaching the intersection to be very important. I know that I find that important, especially when driving on snow and ice, to look way ahead, especially if I'm driving my motorcycle. I'm looking way ahead, getting a good feel for everything that's out there as I approach the intersection. And that's important. It's important on a motorcycle. It's certainly important when you're dealing with ice, and you may have to strategize very quickly as you're approaching and sliding to an intersection. So if I were to be concerned about the fence, those would be at the forefront of my mind as I'm considering it. That's all.
Good one. I guess I would like to ask the applicants, I guess we still have the hearing open. The hearing is open. Maybe we could do that slide of, are you proposing to building the fence on your lot line?
Yes, correct.
But then C says that you shouldn't be able to do that.
Does it specify a setback from the lot line?
It shall be unlawful, yes. For erect a fence exceeding 4 feet. Exceeding 4 feet within 15 feet of any lot line bordering upon any street or road.
Oh, that's pretty clear.
So like,
Well, you can put the fence up, but then it can't exceed 4 feet. But then down on E, says you can't exceed 3 feet within 100 feet of a center of an intersection. I'm sure the whole property is within 100 feet of the intersection or pretty close.
so I guess so that's basically that's what the variance is for. And then from 4 to 6 feet. And to be able to build it on the lot line.
Yeah, this doesn't say on the lot line. It says within 15 feet of any lot line. On C. Yeah. Right. But I think this basically talks about how high it has to be. Not that you can build it. And it doesn't say, I'm surprised, it doesn't say that you have to have a setback for the fence. Like 3 feet from the lot line, which I'm surprised, but It doesn't say it.
I mean,
So
that,
you
that
can
is-
build, so that's what they're asking for, the variance from 4 to 6, because you can certainly build a 4-foot fence on your lot line. Okay. And as long as it's not near an intersection.
Yeah, but then on E, it says you can't exceed 3 feet within 100 feet of the intersection.
Yeah, so it's asking for a 3-foot variance, basically because of the height.
They want to double the height.
Intersection.
Yep, gotcha.
So, any more discussion on the fence, board members?
I guess we have to find the finding of facts, and thank you for being patient and walking me through it. Twice.
I'm looking at this criteria and where it addresses the fence.
So I guess the question then is what some of the thoughts that, Julian mentioned the idea of screening. And he's kind of right. Certainly the noise and the impact of central business district being that close. The fence probably not going to make that much difference. 3 feet of the fence, not going to make a lot of difference. There's just an awful lot of impact.
Well, what's interesting is the criteria A, the site itself is not the situation that's causing the hardship. It's the outside the property that's causing the request. So the lot itself is not irregular or shallow or narrow or anything. It's the situation of having the downtown and the traffic and everything that they're trying to screen that's off the property. So this is kind of an odd, so you can't really say that A is a hardship.
No.
And the second criteria goes along with the first criteria. So the first criteria is there's your unique circumstances related to the lot. The second criteria is because of those unique circumstances related to the lot, it can't be developed in accordance with zoning.
Right,
Agreed.
agreed.
So we can't say that A or B, it meets the requirements of A or B because there isn't a hardship caused by the shape of the size or the size of the lot.
And that on C, unnecessary hardship not created by the applicant. The house is near downtown and the applicant bought a house near downtown. Just like I used to live near the highway.
Right?
On D, will not alter essential character of the neighborhood on which the property is located or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use of the use or development of the property.
That was the issue associated with, there are other fences
Right.
in the area, but none of them are 6-foot fences. They're all conforming fences.
Well, they might
mean,
not all be 3 feet,
Yeah.
but
I wanted to interrupt, but in the slides,
I
we
think
have
there
4
was a bunch.
fences on Third Street that are, and we can,
Yeah.
I mean,
She said they were.
I mean,
Yeah, it seemed like they were. So I think, D, probably fits.
Probably fits, although this house is at an intersection where some of those other fences were not on an intersection.
our neighbor across his corner of his fence, which is a 5-foot fence, is at the same distance from the center as ours.
Okay.
And all the fences that you saw in the pictures are on property lines. So we are just trying to make this
Yeah.
through the right
And-
process,
and it-
but we want this to be equal.
Could be people are putting up fences and not getting the variance.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Google Street Map must not have must not have spotted those fences.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, actually, the action in the question before the board,
4 feet.
you know, you have
Yeah,
examples,
4 feet.
but, you know, we don't base, you know, past, you know, what may or may not happen or what
Yeah.
variance may happen, don't really apply.
Sure.
Well, and I think in past training, Mark, do you remember this? That we were advised by previous attorneys that we need to meet all of the requirements. We can't just
I think it
piecemeal.
went back and forth. And I can't remember where we're at.
Well, I think it's
I think we have to meet all of them.
Yeah, it says you need to meet all 5.
We need to meet
all
all five.
You have to meet all 5.
Reading the code.
Correct.
all that are applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably.
So if A and B are not applicable because the
Right.
lot does not have
Right.
peculiar configuration. I think we're,
So we can either, I don't know if we can vote on that one or we should get a finding of fact. Since we're gonna come back anyway. On the fence,
Together, the finding of fact,
yeah.
which ones doesn't it meet?
A or B.
A or B.
Okay,
Or C, right?
and C, okay,
And I
And
think
E-
Julian was
What about
contending
E?
that D is also because if there's not a whole lot of precedence on the street, it will change the character.
Yeah, it's possible that Google Street Map only has old pictures of that, of Third Street.
Yeah, we're looking
So
at it.
we'll put
Quite possible.
ABCE, which
Okay,
is-
I've hit one. Okay, there's one.
okay.
So you're saying that it could meet the 5th criteria, but it does not meet A, B, C, or D.
no, the only one it might even remotely or meet is D.
Yeah,
The other ones
it
are good.
meets D.
A,
It
B,
does not meet A, B, C, or E.
E as in echo.
Yes.
I was waiting for you to turn to phonetic alphabet there.
So I can make a motion.
Yeah, good idea.
I make a motion that we direct the town attorney to prepare and draft findings of fact to deny the variance for the fence height based on criteria A, B, based on not meeting criteria A, B, C, and E. Or based on criteria A, B, C, and E not being met.
I second.
Was that Mark Mole?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, we are going to take the vote. Vice Chair Mole,
Yes.
Member Davenport,
Yes.
Member Giblin,
Yes.
Alternate Member Cornell,
Yes,
and Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
So Miranda, we're going to be meeting again to go over all these findings of fact, right?
Yes.
And do we know when? June?
I had asked you all a handful of dates, and I think
Applicants, we're going to meet again to go over what we just did. And she's going to tell you the date.
yeah, sorry, hold on one second.
I think it was in June.
Trying to figure out
It's in
who's
June.
the easiest one. Yeah, so June 9th at 7:00.
Okay?
Okay,
And I'll be able to drive, I hope.
you'll be able to drive.
Not 7:15.
Not at 7:15.
Julie and I
Sorry.
figured out,
Sorry,
I
Billy.
fat figured the appointment in my Outlook.
Oh, actually, no, I'm so sorry. and I'll have to text Constance and Lexi. We have a conflict. ProSep had to move their meeting to June 9th. So Attorney Mattson, how long will it take you and could we all do June 2nd?
No, well, no.
Okay.
I think I remember saying that before. I couldn't do
June, and so we could do June 16th, but it would have to be virtual only.
That's okay.
Is that okay to do the finding?
That's fine.
Oh, I can't do June 16th.
Okay.
I'm at a staff retreat in Austin. I am not going to be focusing.
Wednesday the 1st. Can we mix it up and do it on a Wednesday?
Wednesday's good. Wednesday, June 1st?
So
June 1st.
my problem is my wife flies out of town Wednesday through Sunday. So I got the kids. Well,
Wednesday through Sunday.
I got to
June.
deal with the two. That
What
would
about
make it
June?
exciting.
How about a Monday?
Monday would work.
Monday,
June 13th? I don't know. Attorney Mattson, how long do you need?
That would work.
I like June 13th.
Okay, June 13th?
Wait a minute.
If you're gonna physically meet, we need to check in with the community center to make sure that the room is available.
Right, so I will
We can
double
just
check.
plan it.
Mondays are
Just to avoid.
Mondays are typically good.
So June 13th, virtuals, I mean,
Virtual's
a
probably
problem
fine.
for me because
Okay.
Yep.
it's
So I will confirm that we have the room and then I will put out the notification to everyone. That's June. I'll text Constance and Lexi too and let them know.
So we're looking at June 13th at 7.
Yes.
Ooh, I hope that's going to be.
Okay.
At 7, yes.
How you working stiffs have such a hard time.
I know.
Dude,
Oh,
do you want me to call you before?
I'll be up at 6.
Okay.
I
I'll
can't
ask.
sleep past 5:30 anymore.
Okay. Well, there is no other business tonight.
Don't leave us yet, Mark. You got to adjourn us.
Seattle thing.
You got to gavel us.
I know.
But everyone left for your gavel.
Huh?
No other business, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Yeah.
I mean, yay.
Opposed?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Yay.
Great. Meeting is adjourned at 10:25 p.m.
All right. So
Thanks, everyone.